6 a.m. in the Mile High City. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You have tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show on 710 KNUS. It is Wednesday, May 29th, and I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, center, crazy, and today, libertarian. In the 9 o'clock hour, the presidential nominee, Chase Oliver, for the Libertarian Party is going to be joining us on the Jeff and Bill Show. It's a beautiful day in the greatest country in history, and we're gearing up for a whole morning of engaging discussions, critical analysis, and most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. Phone lines are open. Give us a call. Grab your coffee, Denver. Let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. Phone line 303-696-1971. That's 303-696-1971, or text us on the 710 KNUS app. Give you an update on the Trump trials. Man, it was a circus yesterday. Full-blown 4-10, whatever you call it, 9 fire alarm 10 circus yesterday. Holy cow. On both sides, by the way. It has become, look, you're going to get into a trial campaign year. It's going to become a campaign circus. So we'll get into that. We'll also give you an update on an effort to put a gag order on Trump with regards to the Florida case, the one down there about classified documents. So we'll give you all the updates you need on the Trump trials coming up after the Blake Olson news. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, good morning, Jeff and Billy. 52 and clear in Denver, expecting highs in the mid-80s today. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story.
As I'm driving down, I see that a fire truck was starting to close off the road. The water was getting higher and higher, so I came to a complete stop.
Carla's from Greeley in Weld County, waking up to storm damage as severe weather moved through Colorado. Neighborhoods in and around Greeley and Johnstown were hit hard last night with heavy rain and powerful winds, enough to cause extensive street flooding.
The cars around me had water halfway up their doors. At that point, I decided to put my car into reverse because it just looked like it was getting deeper and deeper.
Some saw hail the size of ping pong balls, and more is expected today up and down I-25 and beyond into the Eastern Plains. Denver Civil Service Commission Director Niecy Murray has been fired following comments she made about lowering hiring standards. Murray claimed that the city is allowing police officers and firefighters to move forward with their applications even after failing psychological evaluations and scoring low on entrance exams. Commissioners claim Murray tried to prevent her firing by publicly announcing the allegations during a Tuesday press conference. A man is dead following a 4-vehicle crash in Thornton on Tuesday night. It happened on northbound I-25 near 136th, where police say a wrong-way driver collided with other vehicles. The wrong-way driver died in the crash, while several other people were taken to the hospital. A section of I-25 was temporarily closed after the crash, and there was no word on the current condition of the other victims. Tuesday, Colorado legal officials approved an agreement with one-time former President Trump attorney Jenna Ellis to bar her from practicing law in the state for 3 years after she pleaded guilty to helping Trump try to overturn the 2020 election. Trump's campaign derailment trial is finally winding down in New York. The judge will give the jury his instructions this morning before they begin deliberations. We played you Robert De Niro a little bit on Tuesday. Here's more from the president of the Trump Derangement Syndrome Group.
Under Trump, this kind of government will perish from the earth. I don't mean to scare you. No, wait, maybe I do mean to scare you. If Trump returns to the White House, you can kiss these freedoms goodbye that we all take for granted. And elections, forget about it. That's over. That's done. If he gets in, I can tell you right now, he will never leave. He will never leave. You know that. He will never leave.
as he sits in the courtroom. Since we're talking about actors, hey, Dennis Quaid on with the English guy, Pierce.
I think I'm going to vote for him.
Really?
Yeah, in the next election. Yes, I am.
Are you ready for the blowback?
Well, yeah.
If inevitably comes.
Well,
Trump?
you know, I think this election, everybody's got to, I think they're going to take a side or whatever, but it just makes sense. I was ready not to vote for Trump until what I saw is more than politics. I see a weaponization of our justice system.
Yeah.
No way. All right. News brought to you by Lair Fireplace and Patio, Denver's premier source for everything fireplace, patio, and grills. Locally owned and operated since 1954. Online at lairfireplacepatio.com. Rockies fall to the Guardians 13-7 tonight. First pitch 6:40 before they head to Southern California to take on the Dodgers. NBA T-Wolves avoid elimination and defeat the Mavericks 105-100 in Game 4 of the Western Conference Finals. NHL Stars lead the Oilers 2-1 Game 4 tonight in Edmonton. 49 in Lakewood, 50 in Highlands Ranch, 52 in Denver. We are underway. Jeff and Bill continue. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Your 7:10 5-day forecast, partly cloudy skies, quite warm today, reaching a low to mid-80s with afternoon showers and thunderstorms, a good bet. Some thunderstorms may be strong. Watch out for that, especially out on the plains. Lows tonight, 50s with thunderstorms ending. Mid to upper 70s Thursday, afternoon and evening thunderstorms. 70s for Friday and Saturday with afternoon and evening thunderstorms. Less storm activity on Sunday. I'm meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. I'm glad that Blake was able to get some audio that didn't include all the curse words being yelled at Robert De Niro. So I went and watched De Niro's little press conference. It wasn't just him. There's a few officers from January 6th there as well. And I was like, I sat there and watched this speech, and I'm like, I can't use this. There's what we're talking about is yesterday outside of the Manhattan courthouse, it was a full-blown circus. I mean, just chaotic. So I don't know who the first guy was, but they put on this little Biden campaign press conference, essentially. Yeah. And right after it, Trump's kids come out and they go back and forth. But over in the corner are a whole bunch of pro-Trump rally people just screaming
being New
at
Yorkers.
Robert De Niro.
Yeah.
To the point where you can't even pull the audio without having to bleep I'm glad that Blake was able to get some of it. So Robert De Niro goes down, basically says Donald Trump's going to be this massive threat to democracy. He's never going to leave. He sicks his own military on civilians and all this stuff. And then at one point, someone sets off car alarms. So you have this honking that's taking place during the whole thing. Oh, speaking of that, dude, that was literally like perfect timing.
That was. Now the alarm go off. Let me get the doors.
Now we got the fire alarm here going off. Someone's trying to stop the show. We'll continue though. So full circus going on, and then Trump's kids respond. Everyone except for his daughter. But Don Jr., Eric Trump, Laura Trump, they respond to Robert De Niro. So it's becoming kind of a campaign circus outside. But what's happening in the courtroom, very, very important. This from the Associated Press. Trump's lawyers and Manhattan prosecutors made their final pitches Tuesday to jurors who will decide whether the Republican will be the first former U.S. president convicted of a crime, squaring off over the strength of the evidence and credibility of the prosecution's star witness as his hush money trial drew toward a close. After listening to more than 4 weeks of testimony, the panel of New Yorkers sat attentively through a marathon of closing arguments. And when I say a marathon, 3 hours from the defense, 5 hours of closing testimony from the prosecution. That's when Donald Trump tweeted about it being so boring. And even the prosecution was kind of referencing, I don't mean to beat a dead horse. They kept going 5 hours. It stretched from morning until dinner time. They essentially rehashed the entire legal argument.
Yeah.
The jury could begin deliberating as early as Wednesday to decide if Trump is guilty of falsifying business records to cover up hush money payments during the 2016 presidential campaign to a porn actor who claims she had sex with him. Trump says Stormy Daniels' story is a lie and that he's innocent of the charges. The judge is expected to give jurors instructions on Wednesday before they begin deliberating. Trump attorney Todd Blanche had a clear message for jurors. The prosecution case rests on the testimony of Trump fixer turned foe Michael Cohen. He can't be believed. Cohen is a crucial witness because he made the $130,000 hush money payment to Daniels, and the reimbursements to Cohen are what prosecutors say were falsely logged as legal expenses. As the defense has done throughout the case, Blanche attacked Cohen as a liar with a personal vendetta against the former boss, while Blanche tried to chip away at Cohen's credibility. The defense showed jurors a PowerPoint slide that read, "Case turns on Cohen." Blanche repeatedly reminded jurors of Cohen's past lies, including his 2018 guilty plea for lying to Congress, and the defense played for jurors clips of Cohen's podcast in which the now disbarred attorney said seeing the former president booked on criminal charges fills me with delight. The case around Trump is built around testimony from a witness that outright hates the defendant, wants him in jail, is actively making money off that hatred, Blanche said. Prosecutor Steinglass acknowledged that Cohen is a challenging witness, but prosecutors did not choose him. Trump did. The defendant chose Michael Cohen to be his fixer because he was willing to lie and cheat on the defendant's behalf. Furthermore, he said, there is a mountain of evidence and collaborating testimony connecting Trump to the crime. Also making headlines yesterday, what happens if Trump is convicted in New York? Well, no one could really say. This coming from CBS. When the judge overseeing Donald Trump's criminal trial found on May 6th that Trump had violated a gag order for the 10th time, he told him, the last thing I want to do is put you in jail. You're the former president of the United States and possibly the next president as well, said Justice Juan Merchan, reflecting on the momentous weight of such a decision. Whether to jail the Republican Party's presumptive nominee for president is a choice that Merchan may soon face again. If jurors in Trump's hush money case vote to convict him, what exactly would happen if the jury finds Trump guilty is difficult to predict. Trump is being tried in New York State court, where judges have broad authority to determine when sentences are handed down after convicting what exactly they will be. So in federal court, they tend to have kind of, standards that they have to follow and also a process. But in state court, sometimes they go right into determining the punishment. Like that day, they just go right into it. And it could range. Each of the 34 felony falsifications for business records charged that Trump is facing carry a sentence of up to 4 years in prison and a $5,000 fine. This I found interesting. An author and attorney in New York recently analyzed dozens of cases brought by the Manhattan District Attorney's Office in which falsifying business records was the most serious charge in the arraignment. He found that roughly 1 in 10 of those cases resulted in a sentence of incarceration. But he also cautioned that those prosecutions often involved other charges and noted the dynamics at play in Trump's case make his sentence particularly hard to forecast. In all of this, the Secret Service had to meet yesterday with jail officials because once you become president, you're entitled to Secret Service protection for the rest of your life. So even if you're behind bars, correction officers would in turn be responsible for protecting not just Trump, but the agents as well. This is just wild. Do you think he goes to jail, Bill?
Not on this. No.
Even if he gets found guilty?
No way. Because you don't want to be the guy that puts him in, and keeping him in prison is problematic. If there is going to be any prison time, I think it'll be connected to the federal cases. It's a giant if. And if that happens, he's not going to a regular prison. There's no way that is happening.
To Rikers.
There's no way. And again, if he did go to Rikers, he'd be put in solitary because you would not put him in a general pop, because you can't put Secret Service agents into the general population. You would assume the Secret Service agents would have to be armed at least at some point. So you do not want those weapons potentially loose inside of the prison. Point. So if he does get, again, no prison time is going to come from what's happening in Manhattan. If he gets convicted on the federal charges and they hand him prison time, if I had to go to Vegas and bet, what happens is they pick a house or a portion of a military base and then home confine him there for a bit of time. And that's how you get control of him. He's not in general population. He's not in prison, but you do it that way based on home confinement. And you can't do it by just saying, hey, home confinement in New York. It would have to be something in which there are gates, walls, prevent free movement. But if I had to, and that's the only reason is if I was in charge and had to put a former president into prison, that's what I do. That is the one, because the last thing I want is anything to happen to him, or God forbid he's killed inside of the prison system. Because that's the end of my job. That's the end of my career. I'm done. And I'm going to be known as that guy. So the way that I would protect him would be to put him onto a military base. And I could, if you had to, even build an entire little facility for him. It doesn't have to be even jail-like.
This is like Napoleon.
Yeah,
man.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. Because in many ways, it's the same thing. Where you're trying to get rid of a former leader of a country. Yeah, it's exactly the same thing. So you'd have to take those kind of precautions. So my guess would be you would take some sort of officers' quarters that might be separated from the rest of the facility, and that's where you put him, and you keep him there.
I don't know my history that well to know what Napoleon spent his years. How?
I don't remember how many. I didn't study my Napoleon for this morning.
Right.
But yeah, he was just in exile for a while. And again, we can't really exile him per se. So because of the nature of American and international rules, stuff like that. I mean, you can't just say, hey, get out. That'd be weird. So again, I doubt he's going to spend any time in prison. But if he does, it'll be federal cases, and that's how it will be executed, in my opinion. Because that's what I would do. Because the last thing you want to do is have anything happen to him. So he will get the most light, easy, and country clubby experiences he can if he is sentenced to prison. He's not going to suffer absolutely anything at all. And this whole idea of, oh my God, they're going to send him to Rikers. No. And I've heard the people on the comfy couch this morning, Fox News, worried about that as well. No. Not in the least.
CBS saying that if Trump is found guilty, Mershon would have fairly wide leeway in determining a punishment, including sentencing Trump to just probation or house arrest.
Yeah, which is likely. That's super likely.
Attorney Levin said that the option for confining Trump in his home, followed by a period on probation, might be appealing to Mershon, who has repeatedly indicated he's concerned about limiting a presidential candidate's ability to speak freely. I don't know about that too much. Such an option would allow Trump to do interviews and access social media from his home. I am ready. I am 100% ready for Trump to be unleashed from this gag order. And I think that'll be entertaining to watch. Let's go to Dwayne and Divide. Dwayne, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Dwayne.
Morning.
High up on the mountain.
Gentlemen. Yes, 10,000 feet. I have ladies out there enjoying their breakfast. I got 6 does out there enjoying, taking care of my grass. Yeah, it's just, one of those few moments that I look out and I go, can't do that in the city, can you? Anyway,
hey,
gentlemen.
Dwayne, I have the same thing out by where we live. I was enjoying that last night, watching our whitetails going by, and man, it's a great time of year.
Well, also, when you have that little small tractor to sit there and herd the cat,
Yeah,
which is important.
That's right. That's right. What's on your mind, Dwayne?
Well, several things. A tumor for one, but I believe that if the Biden administration really wanted to make this interesting, as you say, they can't put them in Gen Pop at Rikers, especially Rikers. But Guantanamo Bay would be a place that they could put them.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that.
Man, Gitmo.
Yeah, they could. It would click all the boxes that they need. Yeah, but he'd have to be in confinement. But yeah, that would
put
work.
them in the same place that we put terrorists.
I mean,
I'd like to see Trump in Rikers because I think within 3 days he would command the yard.
Oh, are you kidding me? He'd run the place. I mean, absolutely. In Rikers, they would sit there and bow to him. It would make The Godfather look like a cartoon kid story.
How do you guys come to that conclusion? Because normally inside of the prison yard, it's the survival of the fittest. The thing for me is if you do something or take down Trump and the fact that he has Secret Service protection, you're the top dog. Who's going to mess with you then? The idea that the prisoners would acquiesce to a 77-year-old billionaire who does his business on a gold toilet. No, I'm sorry. You guys are singing a silly tune.
No, I think
no.
Look, this is
Bill.
Hold on, Dwayne. This is Robert De Niro yesterday talking about how much of a thug Donald Trump is.
Let's go. Straight up. Are you on to the left? Are you on we step to the side right here. You're not going to intimidate. That's what Trump does, to try to intimidate. We have to fight back. We're trying to do it. We're trying to be gentlemen in this world. The Democrats. You are gangsters. You are gangsters. Fuck you. You're a little punk. You're a softy. You're a nobody. You're probably softy. You're trash.
That's Robert De Niro trying to deal with Trump supporters. To hear Robert De Niro from Casino and Goodfellas talk about being a gentleman while calling Trump's supporters gangsters. You're gangsters. You're gangsters.
I love the dude that yelled, "You're nobody," and your movies suck. It's like, wait a minute, you know exactly who he is. Don't tell me he's nobody. And based on the amount of money he has in his bank account, enough people have seen his movies. So whether or not they suck or not, that's irrelevant. But I love these just random flailing angers.
It's classic.
One thing about
Go ahead, Dwayne.
One thing about De Niro is that with all that money in his bank account, he should pay his child support.
Yeah, he should.
One thing is that he should do that. One thing is that De Niro is known back in the old neighborhood as Bobby Milk because he was so wimpy, and I mean he'd roll over at a sneeze. So the reason he became a gangster in all the movies is because he's an absolute total wimp. So
he was compensating, huh? But here's De Niro going back to what we were talking about Trump and Rikers. Here you have De Niro going, "You're a thug. You're a bunch of gangsters. You're a bunch of gangsters." You don't think Trump could organize a little prison gang?
Oh, sure, but he's not going to run the yard, and that's different. I mean, could he have faction? But he's not going to run the yard. There's no way, because the idea being, and I understand the deference that y'all are giving to him because you want him to run the country, but the idea that those people inside of the yard, that ecosystem, he gives them nothing. There is nothing that he can do or create for them in that instance. There's no, it's transactional.
I think he could smuggle in some smokes.
No, he can't.
Wait, no. There's
how is Donald Trump going to smuggle anything in with the Secret Service around him? He can't do any of that stuff. None of that's good. So no, they're not gonna sit there and say that a 77-year-old man is now the king of the yard. In fact, it'll be the guy that goes. No, that'll be the guy that goes after him that ends up being the king. He's the guy to take down. That's the way you make your bones. That's what you do.
No.
Oh,
wait, gentlemen, please. Having had friends who have had to stay in the 6x9 Gray Bar Hilton, one thing that everybody likes is books. Not the ones you read, But when you get that little bit of extra for coffee and commissary and everything else, I think Donald could sit there and make it rain, where everybody would be like, I'm tired of lobster. Can we have something else instead?
When
Like the
when is
bologna?
that behavior? Have you ever seen that from him? Because I could see that if he does it, but when has that behavior ever been exhibited from him? When has he ever been that largesse with his wealth?
Well, there are lots of families in Brooklyn that, had suffered things where all of a sudden somebody shows up, drops a check off or an envelope full of cash, and Donald would sit there and say, okay, this is to take care of you guys on the overflow. Don't talk about it. Have a good time. So he's done that for years. He's
No,
always
not
been,
necessarily. No.
Oh,
No,
Oh,
he hasn't.
sure. I've
Well-
seen those stories.
Oh yeah, there's stories.
I've seen
of it,
those
but the idea-
people talk
but the,
about
but
it.
the idea that he does that on the regular, no, and he wouldn't go in there and start throwing money
How
around.
do you know he doesn't?
No.
Oh, are you kidding me? Money.
I know he doesn't
when
because
you're in
he's so.
prison,
I
money
know
is
he.
the power.
I know, but I know he doesn't because he's such a narcissist. He would have to take credit for it. He couldn't not take credit. That's the issue. The way that he's wired, doing something good, he can't not take credit. I mean, that's just a fact based on how he is. It's not a negative or positive judgment.
I don't
but
know
it
if
is
that
how
says he doesn't help other people.
but the issue is we would know because he would tell people. That's the reason that I say that story is he does not do anything and not get credit for it. He wants credit for stuff he didn't do. So of course he would. And I can't see him going in there and just throwing all his money around for a bunch of prisoners. There's no way in hell he's doing that. No way.
So why isn't he bragging about Stormy?
Because of the election and because Melania's pissed.
Well,
So
she's
mad. I mean,
always-
he was on Howard Stern bragging about all sorts of things he got to do with women and all looking at them and going behind the scenes and the Miss America pageant and all the other stuff. He's not shy about bragging about what he has and has been allowed to do. He was bragging when we had the Access Hollywood tape. No. He brags. That's kind of his thing.
And then all of a sudden, to Dwayne's point, then all of a sudden with Stormy, it's no.
Because of the situation. It wasn't no up until then. The entire
Like
time.
Melania didn't sign up this thing going, baby, there's going to be times where you're going to hear things so bad.
Oh, yeah.
It's so disturbing. It's okay, honey. It's called jewelry. Pick out what you like.
Oh,
He's
absolutely.
at the top of the food chain.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
When
But it
you're a
doesn't- again-
billionaire,
Again, doesn't mean that it doesn't again mean that he goes around to random places in New York covering people's bills without taking
I
credit.
don't
of
know.
it.
Here we got 5311 text message. Well, gentlemen, I have family that live in Long Island. Donald Trump has always been a secret Santa. They have recreation facilities. They have health care. They have emergency medical care, all due to a secret Santa, and his name is Donald Trump. His mother was the same way, and they have given privately all their lives.
No, from the guy that ran a fraudulent charity. Yeah, right. Sure. Yeah.
No,
I'm
it's
going to believe that
Thursday.
one. I'm going to believe that one. The dude that ran the fraudulent charity that was self-dealing and runs a fraudulent business is going around being the secret Santa. Sure. The guy that told the Home Alone movie producers they could only use his hotel if they created a cameo for him. Yeah, right.
no, wait a second. No,
Go ahead.
I'm
Dwayne.
sorry. With that there, come on. It's my hotel. I deserve to be in it.
Oh,
and
but
yes,
my point is the
I have no problem
narcissism.
with that.
Dwayne, my point is
Oh,
the
no,
narcissism.
no.
I'm not saying, hey, this is awful of him. The point is he's so narcissistic. He could not do nice things like that and not take credit for them because he takes credit for stuff he doesn't
Text
do.
message from 5631. This might be a record, Bill. A Trump rant before 6:30 in the morning.
Yeah, it could be. Absolutely.
Thanks,
Well-
Dwayne, so much for the call. Rep Stefanik files misconduct complaints against Judge Juan Merchan. This just breaking from the New York Post.
How was what I was doing a rant? I didn't rant. I didn't sit here and go blah, 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 like De Niro yesterday. I'm just like, he's not going to be the head dude in the yard, and he's not a dude that goes around and does charitable things. Not getting credit for it. Doesn't at all. I mean, he had his own charity buy a portrait of himself. He's a narcissist. That's okay. We can deal with that as it is. Deal with it.
Rep Elise Stefanik filed a misconduct complaint Tuesday against judge overseeing Trump's Manhattan hush money trial, alleging that his selection to handle the former president's case and others involving his allies is not random at all. The House Republican Conference chairwoman's complaint with the Inspector General of the New York State Unified Court System called for an investigation into Justice Juan Merchan to determine whether the required random selection process was in fact followed. The potential misconduct, she says, pertains to the repeated assignment of acting Justice Juan Merchan, a Democrat Party donor, to criminal cases related to President Donald Trump and his allies. Acting Justice Merchan currently presides over the criminal case against President Trump brought by Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg, she said. Acting Justice Merchan also presided over the criminal trial against the Trump Organization, and will be presiding over the criminal trial of Steve Bannon, a senior advisor in President Trump's White House and prominent advocate for President Trump. Stefanik continued, noting that there were at least 24 sitting justices eligible to oversee the cases, but Merchan, an acting jurist, was selected for all 3 related to the presumptive 2024 GOP nominee for president and his allies. I'm glad she's looking at it. I did not know that. All 3 of them? All by Merchan? Text messages 0538. Billy, I've read of several instances where Trump did very nice things for people in need. The people who benefited were telling the stories, not Trump. Rob in Tennessee. Bill, you just want to argue this morning.
No, I
your
mean,
point.
The issue was that you guys just said, "Oh, it's going to be running the yard." I'm like, a 77-year-old guy's a billion, and there's no way in hell he runs the yard
I
in
have
Rikers.
visions of prison Mike from The
I mean,
Office.
here's the thing: is it's as if you
got
guys
a
are
good
believing
life.
those pictures that he puts on the NFTs of him all ripped, and it's like Jesse Waters talking about, "Oh, he's going to come out with a prison body." What? What the hell? I mean, and the thing is, the text messages act as if I'm the one that has been drinking this morning. Come on, please. Yeah, right. 77-year-old man's going to run Rikers. Yeah, okay. Sure.
I just have visions of Prison Mike, which is from The Office, when Michael Scott acts like he was in prison. And he's trying to tell, he's offended by the fact that everybody in the office feels like it's an actual prison working at the office. So he acts like he was in prison. You have a nice life. You have a nice life. All right, I want to talk to you about American financing. Everything is still really expensive. And by the time you pay all the monthly bills, there's not much left. So you end up swiping your credit card, trapping you in high interest credit card debt. If you're a homeowner, American Financing can help you. Interest rates have dropped into the 5s. You heard that right. Into the 5s. Much lower than your credit card interest rate. American Financing is saving customers an average of $854 a month by using the cash in their home to pay off high interest debt. That's $10,000 a year. Make the free 10-minute call to see how much you can save. They never charge any upfront fees. And if you start today, you may be able to delay 2 mortgage payments. Call American Financing. 303-695-7000. That's 303-695-7000. AmericanFinancing.net. NMLS 182334. NMLSConsumerAccess.org. APR for rates in the 5 start at 6.799% for well-qualified borrowers. Call 303-695-7000 for details about credit costs and terms. All right, when we come back, I'm going to give you an update. There was an effort to put a gag order on Trump. He was not happy with the FBI, even though they were following standard protocol, but being able to use deadly force in their raid down at Mar-a-Lago. He had some words for the FBI, and the FBI wanted a gag order on him. What did the judge decide? We'll give you the update. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
We already got the text messages firing up this morning. Bill, didn't you hear? This is from Andrew in Denver. Trump is a gangster now. He goes to the Bronx. Only a bunch of white MAGA delusional men could think Trump is going to run the yard in Rikers. Oh, wow. LOL. Thank God Bill is on the show to keep it grounded in reality.
Not about reality, but I appreciate the encouragement. Thank you.
Who is Bill? This is from Mary in England.
England.
Hey, all right. I'm talking with somebody in England, actually. We're trying to get him on the show tomorrow. Who is Bill to diagnose Trump as a narcissist? Narcissists don't sacrifice themselves for the good of others. Trump has taken all these slings and arrows to return the government to we the people. The left hates him because he exposes and will expose their corruption, some of which will be surely shown to be treasonous.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Mary. That's delusional. I apologize. I like the fact that you're listening, but that is completely delusional because the idea is, can you show me a time in which Trump has sacrificed anything for anything other than himself? Even when he was president, he did it for himself. He ran for president originally.
Really
the original plan was he thought it was a great branding.
In Scotland,
he thought it was a great. He thought it was a great because it prevents him. He has more power than he ever has had before, and it insulates him from any crimes. Absolutely, he wants to get back into that. He enjoyed a lifestyle as the president that he didn't have before. People waiting on him hand and foot. His schedule is completely up to him. If he doesn't want to do anything before 11 o'clock in the morning, doesn't have to. If he wants to do things until 2 o'clock in the morning, they'll rearrange everything for him. He didn't do anything. Remember Cadet Bone Spurs? He didn't try to go and sacrifice for anybody. Again, he's a narcissist. Deal with it. I'm not sitting here saying, "Oh my God, you can't vote for the narcissist."
Yeah, no, I get
I'm not
that,
doing a Robert De Niro thing, but I'm accurately describing who the man is. You can choose to vote for him if you want to or not, but I don't disagree about the accurate description of who he is.
I will tell you the two personal interactions I've had with Donald Trump. That was not the way he came across to me as narcissistic. He just didn't. Came across as a very genuine, nice guy.
No, unfortunately, though, we have 70 years of him being on this planet,
yeah,
and we can see his behavior. His behavior is that of a classic narcissist. No, I'm not. I'm relying on my observations of him over decades. He's a narcissist. Absolutely, he is. And again, so that's okay. Everybody. You can support a narcissist if you want. You can vote for a narcissist for president. Fine. You can hope that they're the narcissist for.
Do you think Joe Biden's a narcissist?
Mayor. No. I think he has other things, but no. No.
Come on.
No. I don't think he's a narcissist. No, I don't. He doesn't exhibit the same types of behaviors. No.
Yeah, I disagree with that. All right. Well, I mean,
how many buildings has Biden put his name on?
I don't think that's necessarily the sign.
How many companies has he started with his own name? How many times has he tried to get his own initials used for the stock market ticker? For companies.
See,
things that Donald Trump has done.
I would look at, the fact that he's basically used family members who have run around the world and treaded on his name in order to get contracts and things like that and to make money.
That's called rich people. That's not narcissism.
That's not narcissism. You don't think so?
No, that's not the definition of narcissism at all. That is not the book definition of narcissism at all, nor is it a psychological definition of narcissism. And having family members that run around and make a lot of money based on the last name that somebody else has cultivated, that's called rich people things. I mean, the Kardashians. Why? The Kardashian sisters are only famous because of what dad did and because of a sex tape because they were the oldest sister. Paris Hilton is paid as a DJ because her last name
you don't
is
consider
a hotel.
That narcissist?
No, that's not narcissism. I'm saying those are rich people jobs. Narcissism is different. And here's the idea: narcissism can't be when other people in your family go and get jobs based on your name. That, by definition, is not narcissism. It's self-directed.
Want to give you an update on the case down in Florida as well. If you remember last week, it came out that the FBI had authorized deadly force when they raided Mar-a-Lago, and President Trump was not happy about that. I think he, what he said about it wasn't exactly true, saying that, they were out to get him, that Biden administration wanted to kill him during a search of the Mar-a-Lago estate. So the FBI filed a gag order. The judge overseeing Trump's classified documents case on Tuesday denied prosecutors' request to bar the former president from making public statements that could, quote, endanger law enforcement agents participating in the prosecution. Prosecutors had told U.S. District Judge Eileen Cannon that the restriction was necessary to protect law enforcement from potential threats and harassment after the presumptive Republican presidential nominee baselessly claimed that the Biden administration wanted to kill him during a search. Baselessly is not right. It's just, it's a leap, but I don't think the AP is right to say that's baseless. Cannon chided prosecutors in her order denying the request, saying they didn't give defense lawyers adequate time to discuss the matter before it was filed Friday evening. The judge warned prosecutors that failing to comply with court requirements in the future may lead to sanctions. She denied the request without prejudice, meaning that prosecutors could file it again. The judge's decision came as Trump lawyers were delivering their closing arguments in the trial up here in New York as well. It is the latest example of bitterness between Cannon, who was nominated to the bench by Trump, and prosecutors who have accused the former president of illegally hoarding at his Mar-a-Lago state classified documents. So what happened? Friday, prosecutors submit the request for a gag order. Monday, Trump's people respond, and basically the judge said, we're moving too fast on this. You got to sit down and actually talk. I want you to work this out, the two attorneys, the prosecution and the defense, before she rules on this. Defense attorneys in a court filing late Monday called prosecutors' proposed restrictions on Trump's speech unconstitutional and noted that it identifies that the identities of law enforcement officers in the case are subject to protective order, preventing their public release. Defense attorneys said they asked Smith's team on Friday if the two sides could meet on Monday to give the defense time to discuss the request with Trump before prosecutors filed it. But prosecutors said the situation needed to be addressed urgently, saying in an email to the defense that Trump created a situation that necessitated a prompt request for relief that could not wait the weekend to file. So hopefully they work that out. But the judge in that case, not going to restrict Trump yet. Prosecutors could still bring it in. All right. I want to talk to you all about QC Kinetics. Are you tired of living with constant back pain, robbing you of the joy in life? Elbow pain, knee pain. If you get older, those joints probably hurt, and you're not alone. Back pain, knee pain, elbow pain affect millions, impacting the quality of life. But there's hope. My friends at QC Kinetics Denver offer regenerative medical treatments. These are non-surgical, drug-free solutions. Why risk surgery, guys? Don't go under the knife if you don't have to. There's a safer option with no downtime and a free consultation. QC Kinetics provides same-day treatment. Visit my friends at QC Kinetics and revolutionize your approach to lower back pain. Call 303-900-8986 or visit painfreecolorado.com. That's 303-900-8986 or painfreecolorado.com to schedule your free consultation today. Be sure to tell them Jeff Hunt sent you. All right. When we return, you choose the news. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour in Berlin, I'm Trent Murray, and here are the top stories we're following. The jury in former President Donald Trump's so-called hush money case could start deliberations as soon as today. Tony Waterman has the details.
No one knows how long it will take the jury to reach its decision. It could be hours, it could be weeks, but that decision will have to be unanimous in order to convict or exonerate the former president. In closing arguments on Tuesday, Trump's attorney tried to discredit lead witness Michael Cohen, accusing him of being a liar. The prosecution said Cohen wasn't needed to prove the case. If convicted, the judge will decide Trump's punishment, although many experts say it's highly unlikely that the former president will spend any time behind bars.
One person has died and several others have been injured after an explosion in Youngstown, Ohio. The blast occurred in an office building in the downtown area of Ohio's 11th largest city. Witnesses reported smelling gas before the explosion, but authorities say they are still investigating the cause. Local media report that construction workers were operating in the basement of the building at the time. Authorities also say that engineers are now assessing the structural integrity of the building. And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm Trent Murray in Berlin on Salem News Channel.
Now let's do You Choose the News.
Alrighty, yes, it is that time of the morning where we step away from the regular things and do the silly stuff. Known as You Choose the News, I have scoured the interwebs for mere moments this morning to find really, really stupid stories about us humans, giving them more ridiculous headlines to play this fake radio news game show. Why? As nobody has any idea that we are doing this. The powers that be would put a quash on this almost immediately. We almost got caught like 2 weeks ago. So again, shh, it's a secret. Alrighty. Jeff Hunt, Blake Olson from the newsroom. Here are your choices this morning, gentlemen. Headline number 1, history on repeat. Headline number 2, can you hear me now? Headline number 3, summer job gets extreme. And headline number 4, made to order. All right, sir, choose wisely.
I've got 3 in the house doing summer jobs. Let's do that one.
Summer job gets extreme. Here we are traveling to Salt Lake City for this one and meeting a gentleman who was offered a wonderful summer job. Danielle Gonzalez, a former teammate, Daniel Gonzalez is a former teammate of his at Utah University, approached him about a wonderful summer job in the Congo, was offered 6 figures to do this job. He and a bunch of his other teammates considered it. 3 of them went. He decided to stay home and do something else. And it's a good thing that he decided to stay home because now the other 3 are in prison. because when they were going to Congo, they were joining Marcel Malanga. He's the 21-year-old of the eccentric opposition leader in the Congo, also a player at the University of Utah on the football team. That's how he knew these gentlemen. Well, what they were doing is they were going to go home and provide security from Dad because Dad was starting a coup. Yes, Dad earlier this year started a coup in which he was shot and killed. And now Marcel and the other members of the Utah football team are in prison for helping with the coup. So yes, his summer job was, hey, want to start a coup? Exactly. A little more extreme than your kids,
work
Jeff.
for the CIA.
Exactly. Okay, second choice this morning. History on repeat. Can you hear me now or made to order?
History on repeat.
Yes, this history on repeat. An Ohio billionaire says, well, that's not going to stop me. Larry Connor has sworn that he is going to take himself and at least 2 other people down to the wreck of the Titanic in a little tiny sub after what happened. He said he doesn't care. He's a billionaire. So it doesn't matter. Because I guess, the rules of physics and life don't apply to billionaires, evidently. So, yeah.
Jerry Seinfeld, don't go down in a thing that looks like a kazoo.
Exactly. And the other part is, what are you going to see? Yeah, the ship's here. Let's see. That's more water over there. And yeah.
So what happened to the
here.
Titanic? Oh, good song.
I know. Gee, wow. This is a surprise. Alrighty, Blake Olson. Can you hear me now or made to order?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Ben?
Can you hear me now? Here we are traveling to Zimbabwe, and we are meeting the pastor for the Victory World International Ministries Church. He is going viral on video because, man, this is serious. He is talking to God on his cell phone. Yes, in the video, he picks up his cell phone and claims to be speaking to God with a wonderful signal. Talks about what God wants them to do, tells directions for the congregation, and he says, as crazy as it sounds, this is God, and I'm talking to him. And
I think he called into the show the other day.
I think so. I want to know. Here's the deal, though. What is his carrier? I mean, I got places in Denver that I drop signal. If I can get a signal from heaven, come on.
What is he saying?
I will pay more for that.
You know what I've noticed is people
on.
that have a direct line to God are pretty much always being told that people need to give them money or, take off their shirts or whatever.
Exactly. I love the fact that he pulls out the cell phone. He's like, I'm talking to God. It's like, my call drops when I'm going through the mountains and you're going to signal to, people. That's why I can't have nice things. All righty, that's it. You choose the news. It is probably not sponsored by Roll 'em Out Shelves. You can get your free in-home estimate. They'll take care of your kitchen, bath, garage clutter. Jeff is having it done in his house. Check him out. Free estimate, rollemoutShelves.com.
Drones in Denver are coming. We're going to discuss that next. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
7 a.m. in the Mile High City. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. It is Wednesday, May 29th, and you have tuned in to the Jeff and Bill Show on 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt. Intimidated by Bill Thorpe, according to text messages.
No,
bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes
Jeff does
from
great,
the
especially
right,
off-air.
left, center, and crazy. And today, libertarians.
Yeah, it's gonna
9
be weird.
o'clock hour, the presidential nominee for the Libertarian Party will be joining the Jeff and Bill Show to talk about his vision. This is a controversial guy. If you remember yesterday, we had Hannah Goodman on. She is the chair of the Colorado Libertarian Party in Colorado, not supporting him.
Yeah, she's not a fan.
She's into
She
Trump.
torched him pretty too. She's
Yeah, I
like,
call him basically
really
a
went after him.
California lib.
Yeah,
So
I was
this will
like,
be interesting conversation. Presidential nominees, man, coming by the Jeff and Bill Show.
Yeah,
I
it's
love
nice.
it. It's a beautiful day in the greatest country in history, and we're gearing up for a whole nother morning of engaging discussions, critical analysis, and most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. Great conversation happening. So grateful for all the text messages coming in. We gave an update on the Trump trials in the 6 o'clock hour, but now the Denver police introducing drones to help respond to 911 calls after the city defunded the force by millions of dollars. Welcome to RoboCop.
Yeah, it's
All
first thing I
right,
thought.
we'll get into this and more after the news. The Blake Olson news. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, good morning, Jeff and Billy. 55 and mostly sunny in Denver, expecting highs in the mid-80s today. The 7-10 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story.
The cars around me had water halfway up their doors. At that point, I decided to put my car into reverse because it just looked like it was getting deeper and deeper.
Carla's from Greeley in Weld County woke up to storm damages. Severe weather created plenty of problems last night. Neighborhoods in and around Greeley and Johnstown were hit hard with heavy rain and powerful winds, enough to cause extensive street flooding.
As I'm driving down, I see that a fire truck was starting to close off the road. The water was getting higher and higher, so I came to a complete stop.
Some saw hail the size of ping pong balls, and more is expected today. So get ready for that up and down I-25 and into eastern Colorado. Hundreds of thousands are still without power in Dallas County after severe storms pummeled northeast Texas last night. They are expecting multi-day power outages. A man is dead following a 4-vehicle crash on I-25 in Thornton on Tuesday night. A wrong-way driver collided with other vehicles heading northbound. The wrong-way driver died in the crash, while several other people were taken to the hospital. A section of I-25 was temporarily closed after the crash, and there's no word on the current condition of the other victims. Denver Civil Service Commission Director Nisi Murray has been fired following comments she made about lowered hiring standards. Murray claimed that the city is allowing police officers and firefighters to move forward with their applications even after failing psychological evaluations and scoring low on entrance exams. Well, former President Trump's campaign derailment trial is finally coming to an end, eventually in New York. The judge will give the jury his instructions this morning before they begin deliberations, and Trump attorney Will Scharf on Tuesday.
Well, I think what the jury witnessed this morning was a systematic dismantling of the prosecution's case by Todd Blanche. Todd gave them 10 independent reasons why, after hearing all the evidence after this entire trial, why they couldn't vote to convict. And what I saw from the jury was attentiveness, was a serious attention to detail. I think they seemed interested by Todd's argument. And as a defense lawyer, that's really all you can ask for and hope for.
And once again, plenty of activity outside the courtroom this morning. North Korea flew hundreds of balloons last night carrying trash and manure towards South Korea in one of its most bizarre provocations against its rival in years, prompting the military in South Korea to mobilize chemical and explosive response teams to recover objects and debris in different parts of the country. From manure and Kim Jong-un to De Niro. Psychics say this is Robert De Niro after the election in November. No, wait a minute. That was a Raging Bull.
Under Trump, this kind of government will perish from the earth. I don't mean to scare you. No, wait. Maybe I do mean to scare you. If Trump returns to the White House, you can kiss these freedoms goodbye that we all take for granted. And the
All right, Raging Bull, if you've ever
that
seen.
was amazing, brother. Dude,
That was
to
really good.
overlay those two.
That was
really
a
good.
great movie. Have you ever seen that movie?
No, it was
Oh, yeah,
before
Jacob
my
LaMotta,
time, but
Yeah,
my
Raging
goodness.
Bull's a good one.
What
It's
I
too
mean,
bad. He's ruined it all now for me. I'm so finished now.
See, for me, it's the idea that I don't care what my
Yeah.
actors or actresses or music stars think about politics. Just shut
Right.
up about it. And so I will not cast judgment one way or the other. If they come out and do it, I'm just like, that's just stupid. Because the thing that De Niro has to understand, I understand that he has this issue of self-importance, but
Narcissism?
both Republicans, a little bit he does, both Republicans and Democrats need to buy tickets to movies. And he needs to sell as many as possible. So he really,
That's
really should
true.
shut up. He really should.
You know what I think he was doing, honestly? He's 80
What?
years old and he has a baby at home. He wanted to get away from he wanted to get away from changing
He
diapers.
might have something there. He might have something there.
I think that was, his wife is 45, right? Isn't that what
Yeah, I
happened?
think so. Yeah,
I
I think
mean-
you could be right.
I mean, we used to talk about that when you had babies, you did whatever you could to get out of the house. I'll go to the store. I'll do this, whatever. All right, the Rockies fall to the Guardians 13-7 tonight. First pitch 6:40. The T-Wolves avoid elimination to defeat the Mavericks 105-100 in Game 4 of the Western Conference Finals. NHL Stars lead the Oilers 2-1. Game 4 tonight in Edmonton, and a Westminster team advancing in the Scripps National Spelling Bee. Aditi Muthakumar made it through the first 3 rounds Tuesday and will
Yeah.
take the stage for today's quarterfinals.
Those kids
Isn't
are
that
so
awesome?
impressive.
They
So
are,
impressive because you not only have to memorize how words are spelled, you go into the etymology of them, the background, the
Yes.
history of them. I mean,
Yes.
these kids, they're real athletes. The amount of time they commit to this stuff, in my
Oh,
opinion.
I agree. It's awesome. And I can't stand spell check. I think it's such a cheat, even though everything I'm reading right now is misspelled. Hey, Billy, you know the story on the cell phone?
Which no.
Yo, this calling to God.
Oh yeah, that guy. Yeah.
Okay, so right after you finished the story, we went to
Yeah.
commercial. I was like, oh man. One of my favorite gospel songs is Jesus is on the main line. You ever heard that?
Oh yeah, that is a good one.
Jesus is on
That is a
the
good one.
main line. Tell him what you want. It came to mind. I
That's a
just
good
had to
one,
let
man.
you
That
know.
is, and I had heard that story about the North Korea. I almost put that in You Choose the News as well. The
You did?
yeah, the poop balloons. Yeah, that's just like
Yeah,
what.
I was kind of shocked why you didn't have it.
I know. The thing for me is I looked at it. I'm like, who has that job? I mean,
Right.
you come over here and you're like,
People
okay.
enslaved to a dictator in North
Yes.
Korea.
I'll tell
But
you
they're
who
like,
has
have you got
that
something
job.
today?
52 in Lafayette, 51 in Littleton, and 55 in Denver. Jeff and Bill continue. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Your 7-10 5-day forecast, partly cloudy skies, quite warm today, reaching a low to mid 80s with afternoon showers and thunderstorms, a good bet. Some thunderstorms may be strong. Watch out for that, especially out on the plains. Lows tonight 50s with thunderstorms ending. Mid to upper 70s Thursday, afternoon and evening thunderstorms. 70s for Friday and Saturday with afternoon and evening thunderstorms. Less storm activity on Sunday. I'm meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
So I posted our conversation, Bill, on X. We've already got some
goody.
votes coming in. If Donald Trump goes to Rikers,
Yeah.
does he run the yard? 85% of my followers are saying yes. Somebody said they're setting him up to be Epsteined.
Yeah, I just, again, that's delusional, but that's okay. Let's go right ahead. I will embrace your delusions happily, and I will enjoy them. But there's no way a 77-year-old billionaire runs the yard at Rikers. No, in fact, he's the target because you become the dude if you can hurt that dude. Yeah, he's the key.
Text message here, 3,300. Bill, you're not only a talk show host, you're a lawyer and a psychologist and a talk show host.
Yeah, exactly.
You brought it all together. All right. The Daily Mail reporting drones to be introduced into Denver police to help respond to 911 calls after the city defunded the force by millions of dollars. The Denver Police Department has launched a new program that will include the use of drones as a tool to help officers respond to 911 calls. The law enforcement agency that was recently defunded by millions to pay for illegal immigrants is now launching its own drone program along with other Colorado police departments. Robert White, the former chief of the Denver police officer, originally disagreed with the use of drones in 2013 and 2018, and the agency's only drones were shelved. Now the department is planning to use a $100,000 grant from the Denver Police Foundation to start the program. The Denver police plan to buy several drones with that money and begin their drone program within 6 to 12 months. We would never simply replace calls for service response by police officers. Phil Gonshak, director of the department's Strategic Initiatives Bureau, told the Denver Post. The DPD would respond to any call for service where someone is physically requesting a police officer on scene. But if there was a fight at Colfax and Cherokee and we put a drone in the air and there was no fight and nothing causing traffic issues, then we would reroute our police officers to other emergent calls. It's beginning to lift off, Gonshak said. The long-term scope of what we were trying to do is drones as first responders, basically having stations on top of each one of our districts so that we can respond with drones to critical needs or emergencies that arise throughout the city. The Arapahoe County Sheriff's Office, based in Centennial, has been using robotic drone devices since 2017. This really is the future of law enforcement at some point, whether we like it or not, said Sergeant Gates, who leads the drone unit at Arapahoe County Sheriff's Office. The Arapahoe County Sheriff's Office has 14 pilots that have used 20 drones to conduct tasks, including tracking fleeing suspects, searching for missing people, providing overhead surveillance during SWAT operations, and mapping crash or crime scenes. Gates said that the department is now considering using drones to respond ahead of officers, and in some rare instances, instead of them attending at all. How long do you think that before these drones start pew pew?
As soon as they possibly can. They'll start with tasers is what they'll start with. But as soon as they possibly can, they'll set that up.
I think they could have nets.
Yeah, they could. But again, it's the targeting and could you? And you see, China's got robot dogs with guns. They released those a couple of years ago. So
they really?
Yeah, it's a robot dog that has machine guns that mounted on the outside.
Dude, we're like into the Terminator series at this point.
And people are just going through old Hollywood 80s movies going, yeah, all right. I'm worried someone's going to do, what was it, the Caveman movie with Brendan Fraser. That's worried. We're going to freeze somebody. But I think they're right about this being the future of law enforcement.
Yeah.
And the reason being is twofold. Threefold. One, you're not having humans necessarily in danger right away. 2, small, the size of the drones. 3, air. You have a different perspective in the air than you have on the ground. And so you have the ability to look and see and watch more. And so this absolutely is the future. But again, what's that balance with pilots and rank and file officers? Because if you start telling me that we are not having as many rank and file officers on the streets, not as many boots on the ground, as I'm going to say, and all those people are instead transitioning into pilots of drones, I'm not okay with that. However, if we can expand the budget and if we are adding them, if they are additional employees, then I'm okay. I'm really worried, though, about it being a choice that we are only going to have so many officers on the ground, and then we're going to have this giant group of drone officers. Because, again, the drones can track you and everything else, but so far can't arrest you. Can't get to that.
And there's a real question on deterrent too. So, think about this. Right now, they're just responding.
Yeah.
And patrol officers deter.
Yep.
I saw a patrol officer on Parker Road this morning.
Yeah.
Took my foot off the accelerator, right? So they naturally deter whether you're hanging out on 16th Street Mall and you're watching them and they're around you, you're going to act a little bit better. So, but these aren't patrolling yet. Do you think there's going to be a time where they're just going to?
Oh, absolutely.
Just drone goes by and some guy's sitting in a room like this with computer screens everywhere.
Yep. If the department can get its way, absolutely. And this is going to be a privacy issue is where we're going to go with this.
Yeah.
Because
right.
Eventually, I mean, now we know that as much as both the Democrats and the Republicans pay lip service to wanting to keep our right to privacy, if either party felt they could install CCTV cameras like they have in England now, they do it. Both parties in a second.
And those are constantly being taken down. Are they called? There's like a blade brigade or something.
Yeah, they go and take them down. Yeah,
and they cut them down because they don't want to be watched all the time.
Exactly. And that's it. And so you think that putting the thing in the air and flying around above us, yes, they're going to watch us all the time. That's kind of the idea. Is that it's part of why the officers are out on patrol. Again, I'm not saying that the police department is coming to it with a bad motivation. I don't think so.
Yeah.
But they're trying to be as safe and to stop as many crimes as possible. And the more you see, the more you hear, the more you're able to stop and the more you're able to do your job. So I totally understand the motivation as to why you would want the air over downtown blanketed with drones. Absolutely. But it's a huge privacy issue. Plus, you got a lot of telephone lines, and I'm curious how we navigate those. But
give us a call. What do you think about this? Is this a good move? Because now officers don't have to respond, kind of like what Denver Police Department said. They're first going to send out these drones, see if it's an actual call. Is there actually a fight going on? We don't have to spend officer resources. Or is this just another step towards losing our privacy, a growing police state that's taking place in this country? And we're going to have drones patrolling around, checking in on you. Do you remember that movie where the guy gets his eyes replaced? I'm trying to remember. Is it iRobot? No, not iRobot. It's the one with Tom Cruise.
That's Will Smith.
Is it?
Well, iRobot's Will Smith, but
there's like these like little spiders that come in to your house and they scan your eyeballs.
Oh wow, I don't remember that.
And I think it was Tom Cruise had to have his eyes replaced. Maybe it was Minority.
I don't know. I have to go back and see. But I'm not sure. That's crazy. There are a couple of others that are like that. That do some sort of cyborg.
On that path? Text messages starting to come in. How soon until law enforcement will be on the network with our home security cameras? Then if there's a problem in a certain area, they can dial up an address and see if there's anything on the outside camera. I hope just the outside camera.
Yeah.
I don't get the people that put the cameras in the house.
No.
I just don't get that.
Really?
Like, really? You want a camera seeing everything happening in your house?
Yeah.
I get the Google little thingies that you can.
Yeah.
They're essentially bug devices.
Yeah.
we put in our house.
We had a couple of cameras up in the house when the kids were little. Just because of 4 kids, chaos, things get broken. And people don't want to take responsibility. And also, we did have some in-home childcare as well. So it was just one of those. It was just kind of one of those monitoring things. And
I get that.
Yeah, that's it. And we don't have them now. Yeah. But
give us a call. Where do you think this is going to go? 303-696-1971. 303-696-1971. Is this the natural evolution of policing? As technology gets better, it's going to become more drone, robot oriented. Or is this becoming a real threat to privacy? I don't think it's fair. I don't like the little red light cameras. I got a ticket the other day off of University Boulevard. Didn't even know it was there for going 11 miles an hour. I was going 41 and a 30.
Oh, man.
And they got the little chink.
Oh, yeah, little flashy flash.
And didn't even know it was there. And it was there temporarily. They do these now in Denver.
They move them around. Yeah, they move them around. Yeah.
They move them around. So, I didn't think I was going that fast, but apparently 41 and 30, you get your ticket in Denver.
And go ahead and check to see the rules and such based on when it was issued. There may be some wiggle room there because I know our state legislature has tried to change and close the loophole. But technically, those tickets that they email to or they send you in the mail, you don't have to pay them. because the statute inside of Colorado says that a law enforcement officer must deliver the ticket to you.
That's how I feel. Like I feel like another person has to adjudicate the charge. I don't think it's right for a computer to charge you.
No, not at all. Not at all. But it's super easy. I mean, I understand why they're doing it.
I heard that they're, exactly. Revenue.
Yeah, exactly. Who wants a uniform?
There was a guy, I heard the story one time, got a picture, of him speeding. And so he sent a picture of money back.
Oh, that's good. That's good. I might have, we had one of those in the neighborhood, and I might have enlisted my two youngest daughters to help me make a sign. And so on a large piece of cardboard, and again, it's the speed meter thing, on a large piece of cardboard, easily the size of a normal street sign, I had them put two giant numbers. And it was a 7 and an 8. And then I wrote high score above the top, and I pasted it below and left it there. It was there for 3 days.
That is funny.
I'm just like, it's just random chaos that I just thought would be, it's just funny as hell. So, yeah.
As far as drones go, this is Janet from Casper. Can it serve both purposes? Safety and invasion of privacy, which begs the question, how much we're willing to give up in order to get it?
That's a really good question. I'd love to have you call the show at 303, 613. But hang on. But the other part of those
696-1971.
Yeah, I had a little bit of a brain freeze there because the idea of the privacy, the right to privacy, and do we give it up for the security as far as how far you are willing to go? And it's interesting when we talk about it being right of privacy as far as cameras and watching you, but that's also the argument for safety that the Democrats will make about coming after your guns. And it's the argument the Republicans will make about safety as far as why we need to keep our guns. So what we are and are not willing to do based on our own personal safety is really interesting. And how much of that personal privacy are we willing to give up? Everybody's mad about, all the privacy that you lose by all the stuff you post online. But I still maintain that if you went down to 16th Street Mall and offered somebody free tickets to the Super Bowl, they will give you their first name, their last name, their mother's maiden name, their address, their social security number. They'll give you the bank routing number. They'll tell you who they lost their virginity to. I mean, it's just a matter of motivation. So we are not that concerned necessarily about our privacy. But this is a little bit of a different level because it's the idea of them watching you all the time. Yes. That's a different level.
And I don't know where, I'm trying to remember the Supreme Court case on this, but if you are growing pot in your backyard, for instance, I think this was the case itself, and the police can see it.
Yep.
Now they have a drone that can go above. Can they prosecute you? I think they can. I think they can.
They can if it's above, and I only know that there were some stories I had read where farmers were making extra money by cutting pieces out of their crop patches and letting the marijuana farmers come in, because you get 60 feet off of the road and there's corn. Yeah, there's corn, sorghum, doesn't matter. You can grow in there, and that's what they were doing. And they only found it with the planes flying over, is how they were picking out these marijuana patches. They were in the middle of these giant farmlands, and that's how they found it.
Janet would love to call in, but she's getting ready for work. But she really appreciates the invitation.
Oh, thanks. Appreciate you listening, Janet. It'd be really cool because, how much privacy would you be willing to give up in order to maintain that safety? The idea that if there were cameras and things monitoring even your house all the time, if you knew that as soon as someone that wasn't authorized to be in the home, that law enforcement would be there in mere minutes, would you take that feeling of security, knowing that I can even leave the front door of my home unlocked because the eye will know that is not a member of my home that walks in? We'll all have, biometrics and other stuff. Would you give that up to have that feeling of security? Would you give up that amount of surveillance? That is a really, really difficult question, because I'm not sure I would. I don't think I can.
And the question I have on this with the drones is, what can we do? Right. So, all right, you see a fight happening on 16th Street Mall. The drone is going to have to relay, and eventually a police officer is going to have to get there. They're just kind of surveillance, I think, at this point. And I would get a lot more concerned if you attach tasers and weapons to them.
I would too, but that is coming, because if they're the first responder, it would make the most sense. And I like your idea about that, of a net. But then again, how does it drop, etc. I think the benefit for the drone and being that type of first responder is you at least get eyes on the suspect immediately. And if someone tries to leave before the flesh and blood officer arrives, then you have an instance as far as where that individual is going. And so it could help. But wow. I mean,
our friend Corey in Parker was telling us Minority Report. That is the movie.
That is. So it is Minority
Report. He gets
Report.
his eyes replaced, and then they have these like little spiders that crawl under the doors and scan your eyes, but they could just go right into your house. No privacy.
No, not at all.
They just go right in.
Yeah, and that was about thought crimes. That was that was the precursor.
The potential crime.
You could potentially do this. So that's a whole nother level.
Bill, the philosophy major.
I'm going to jail. That happens. I'm done. Pack me up now.
8422. The drones could be used as useful tools, but like anything else, it'll be abused. Jeff, the town of Morrison just purchased one photo radar and issued 10,000 speeding tickets in 2 weeks. Yeah, I saw that. Do you think that's fair? Again, I get what they're trying to do. I get that it slows people down. I get that it probably improves safety. But my gut in this country is that if you are charged with a crime, right, and it is a crime to speed, that it needs to be done by another person. I don't think it's right for a computer to charge people with crimes.
Yeah, I think that there has to be a little bit of rationalization in there as far as what was happening, what was the situation, and that human response needs to be baked in, because we've seen how well AI responds when just left on its own. So it's not like that is going to make the bestest possible decision. So yeah, that is spooky.
I am not willing to give up any freedom for security. This is 0538. I have a dog and a Ruger, my best friend, to help me with all that.
Hey, I appreciate that, and I admire that a lot. And I feel many of the same ways you do. Many.
Jones from Lakewood. Good morning, Jeff and Bill. I can tell you I never give my social security number to anyone.
Not even if I gave you free tickets to Super Bowl?
My library wanted my social security to get a library card. Nope. They can do it without a social security.
Yeah, they can. That's weird. Why would the library need a social security card? And here's the thing is, if you're in a situation like that, just make up a number.
You remember that guy?
No one checks.
Yeah, that's exactly true.
Again, I may or may not be speaking from experience. I'm not going to admit to any crimes on the air, but maybe.
Well, you remember the guy who used to run those ads where he would give out his social security number, and then he ended up having his credit stolen?
They did, yeah. I mean, he put them on big billboards and stuff. That was LifeLock. Yeah, yep.
Hey, folks. Jeff Hunt on behalf of the Colorado Farm Bureau. Whether you pulled out your skis or snowmobiles this last winter, it was a great year for winter fun, but the snow means even more to Colorado agriculture. And I want you to know that our state's farmers and ranchers are doing their part to protect our future water resources. The people of Colorado agriculture continue improving the efficiency of their irrigation systems and adopting farming practices that help crops use less water to grow. They're planting drought-resistant varieties, and they're leading talks with state policymakers about how to preserve water supplies when we have good years like this last one. My friends at the Colorado Farm Bureau are leaders in water conservation and water policy. They understand how to balance water for crops and water for families, and they're doing more with less. You can do your part. I highly recommend you join and become a member today. Go to coloradofarmbureau.com. That's coloradofarmbureau.com to join up. Thank God we got good water this year. That is so important to Colorado, especially to the ag community. And thank God we got people like the Colorado Farm Bureau working on policies to make sure that water lasts. All right, we'll continue with your calls and texts. Corey, you're up next. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Talking this article out in the Daily Mail and the Denver Post. Drones to be introduced into Denver as Denver police help respond to 911 calls after the city defunded the force by millions of dollars. Good idea. Have drones going around, and how long till those drones got little pew-pews on them? Let's go to Korey. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Korey.
Morning.
Hey, good morning, guys. Absolutely interesting topic. I could spend 2 hours talking about this, but I'll try and keep it narrow. I have a little bit of knowledge in a couple of areas you're talking about. One is the photo traffic enforcement. I happen to be the one that actually advised Denver on starting up their photo traffic program. Actually, wrote the program. So I just want to let you know that those in Colorado, state law prohibits like a photo speeding ticket just being issued without a person being involved. That's why you see photo radar vans being involved, where they actually have a human being running the radar unit. You don't have an automatic system without a person involved. Second of all, before any citations issued or a notice of violations issued is actually reviewed by human beings, even on photo red light programs, which again I started for Denver. I wrote the business rules for that. So a human being has to review every notice of violation going out. So it isn't automatic.
And Korey, do you think that they're like a detailed review? I imagine like with Morrison getting 10,000, they're just like select all, approve.
No. You have to make sure things like on photo speed, photo speed, I'm not sure about their system for speed. They actually have to have a person involved actually monitoring, just like a police officer. They don't sit down and actually just wait for the radar unit to beep. They actually look and do visual estimates of speed, make sure everything is correct, and then the photo they're reviewed to make sure they have a picture of the driver, they have a good license, a picture of the license plate, etc. So there is a very detailed review. I wrote the business rules for photo red light. For even example, violation isn't just running through the red light. It could be failure to stop. If you stop, blocking the crosswalk, for example, in Denver, you have to have both wheels over the stop line, in the photo before it's a violation, for example.
Wow. And do you know how much are challenged on an annual basis, or do most people just kind of pay them?
I worked with the program initially started, but I haven't been involved for the past few years, so I don't know exactly the numbers. We've seen a few interesting people from local media stations. We've had some interesting people come in and challenge them, and they're saying welcome to. A lot of times they get a chance to meet with the technician who comes in and brings in the photographs or the evidence, and sometimes the cases are dismissed, and sometimes, they after they see the evidence, they go, okay, I guess I'm guilty, and just plead to the charge. Sometimes they have hearing kind of varies. I don't know the specifics, but I would like to address quickly the issue of drones. Some law enforcement agencies have had drones for some time, even over in the Western Slope. They were the first, I think it was Mesa Sheriff's Department was the first agency in Colorado to have a drone. Douglas County, I was appointed as a member of the Public Safety Advisory Committee to the Sheriff's Office since I lived down in Douglas County. And when I was the chairman of that program, we wrote a 68-page report to the Sheriff's Office and the county commissioners recommending the implementation of a drone program for a number of different reasons, but primarily search and rescue. And in fact, they did approve our request. It is a line item in the Douglas County Sheriff's budget for their drone program. Search and Rescue has used that drone and actually have found many lost people up in the mountains from the use of that drone. We also recommended it for things like in traffic accidents, so they could take photographs of major collisions on the highway, and then be able to, instead of having to use hand measurements, they could use digital measurements off of photographs and clear up accident scenes, clear all types of issues. The ACLU has a very interesting document. They came out with a policy recommendation on the use of drones and surveillance. And we actually brought in one of our meetings we had public hearings in Douglas County over this. And we asked one of their attorneys to come in and give a presentation, and they did a wonderful job and helped us develop recommendations for implementations as far as privacy issues. So it's a very interesting concern. I cannot comment on Denver's program, but I think for lots of things that it has the potential of being very helpful. I'll just let you know that I do know outside of the policy issues that you take a look at one of the leading companies in technology and law enforcement. It's a company that actually makes the taser equipment. They're the ones who manufacture the majority of body cameras used by law enforcement agencies and collect all that data and video into downloadable that prosecutors can actually access and pull. I've heard from them that they have plans to actually offer drones that can be attached to the rooftop of supervisors' vehicles. So if a supervisor comes to the scene and you have multiple, for example, like a barricade situation or an active shooter, that drone can pop up very quickly and then keep track based on officers' body cameras, digital locations, actually track where those officers are located, help supervisors monitor their deployment of their officers and scene. Kind of got that movie Aliens, the second Aliens movie, where they had the Marines being deployed. You could see, from a sky-high view where they're actually located and be able to help manage their locations for strategic and tactical purposes. So the potential is absolutely phenomenal. It's my favorite area of the law is where technology and science and Fourth Amendment collide, and the issues there are really amazing. There's a series of Supreme Court decisions going back to 1986 in Dow Chemical case, Florida versus Riley. There's a Cirillo case talking about, the limitations of the Fourth Amendment as far as protection, as far as aerial surveillance. So you talked about that helicopter case where they viewed through the opening in a barn and saw the marijuana grow case. Yeah, that was the Supreme Court decision in Cirillo. So there's lots of good cases on it. It's fascinating stuff.
Wow, Korey.
That's crazy.
I love the fact that our listeners are this involved in policy making to be able to call us in and give us the details on this. I guess the question I have, I understand 911 response. I understand using them to help with a crash, a barricaded situation, all that stuff. How about just patrol?
Well, I think the difficulty is going to be is that, I don't think anyone's comfortable with the idea of just sending an automatic and let some computer program, right, just kind of hover over everyone's homes.
Yeah.
That situation. So you have to have a human operator, I believe, would have to be involved. And then you have to have some reason, well, what's it doing there? Why are you spending that time, energy, and effort? I mean, just patrolling the area for no reason whatsoever. Then now they got nothing better to do rather than, using the drones compared to a police cruiser. I don't see as being very effective, very useful. And the other problem you're going to have is that we saw that in hearings in Douglas County. We had people come up convinced that the sheriff's department already had drones buzzing by their bathroom windows. Well, so civilians have drones. And
That's
just
your
because
neighbors.
you see a drone hovering over doesn't mean
that's right.
Doesn't mean it's a government-owned aircraft. I mean, drones. So you're going to have lots of confusion out there. So I just don't see the utility in doing the automatic ones. The Denver Police Department does have a helicopter. Air One is a fantastic tool. They use it for lots of different reasons. I can't go into a lot of detail on that, but I'm actually probably going to go on another ride along with them this summer. The way it's looking, I'm setting that up. But they have some amazing technology, forward-looking infrared radar, which actually allows like night vision, the type of information, infrared. Absolutely fantastic tool. And so these tools are fantastic for officer safety. I remember one time I did a ride-along many years ago. We actually came on a traffic stop, and the officer stopping his van had no idea that there were about 4 or 5 guys in the back of the van. And so we gave the officers on the ground a tip saying, hey, don't go around the back of the van because those guys could pop out and surprise you, And so all types of tactical information. You can find suspects running. Obviously, you can use a dog, but infrared's great at night. So there's lots of fantastic tools that can be very helpful. I think obviously you have to balance the Fourth Amendment. And I think that there should always be a prohibition against any kind of concept of arming a drone. ACL is very clear on that in their recommendations, and I certainly agree with that. You shouldn't have any type of taser or any kind of thing like that on a drone.
Now, this has been really interesting, Korey. I really appreciate your insight. I want to lean into a little bit of questions about privacy, because as using these drones as tools, the way that they are implemented now currently seems to make sense. But you know how technology is, and you know how large bureaucracies work. I can see down the road, and I would say 5 to 10 years, if we did large scale drone deployment, that the department, just based on funding and manpower, would look for AI solutions for those drones. And how we talked about earlier with the photo radar, where we started the conversation, that we don't want the computer making the decision to send us a ticket. I'm worried about, based on just manpower hours and how this works efficiently, that you can't deploy a large number of drones inside of a city without involving AI unless you want to burst your budget. And how do we balance that with questions about privacy and the like? Because, even if we have humans flying the cameras, us humans sometimes don't always make, even though we are working with law enforcement or with teachers or other sorts of important people like politicians, don't always make the most moral or ethical choices. And so that idea of right to privacy, how do we go about balancing that going forward if these tools are so effective?
Billy, you're a smart guy. I really appreciate you, man. You can really narrow down these issues to the tip of the spear, and that's exactly the issue. You're 100% correct. I think you have to have, policymakers who are willing to write policy the way that you don't have deployment of these things, unless certain parameters are met. There are protections against what we call the curtilage of your home, areas where police can't just enter in the area around, even outside of your home, in areas that are where a person has a reasonable expectation of privacy. And even the FAA has rules against, any type of aircraft flying below 400 feet, for example. So if you're flying anything below 400 feet, you got some issues based on FAA regulations. I think you're going to have some legal problems. And I think, like we did recommended to the Douglas County Sheriff's Office and their policies, we have seen cases in other jurisdictions where drone operators misused their little toy and were spying on a girlfriend or some friend's, home or something, and they got in trouble. And so you have to develop those kinds of policies and oversight capacities. But I agree with you. That is, you can see the Minority. I love the movie Minority Report because it is so much of that is actually coming true. And if you go into the history of that movie and Spielberg's involvement, they actually hired futurist people who were experts in what they actually seen. They said, this is our real best guess of what the future is going to look like in that movie. So I've actually got the editor's notations version of that movie and watch it every couple of years because it's absolutely fascinating.
Oh, I bet it's like going back and watching Tron from the 80s, because Tron was kind of hokey, but they got so many things right. Virtual reality, emails, cell phones, communication systems. They got so many. They nailed it in so many levels. But it was still, it's a funny movie. But that's right about
self-driving cars too, if you remember that too. But you're absolutely right, Bill. So the question I think really is one is that I hope law enforcement agencies will take a step back and be very cautious, because if you abuse something, you're going to lose it, right? So if you abuse these kinds of tools, you're going to have some knee-jerk reaction, from law enforcement, to take away their tools. That's why I disagree with some of these libertarian politicians who want a libertarian policy against photo traffic enforcement. These kinds, it's a great tool, and I think those people who just want to
until you have to pay the tickets.
Yeah,
so one of us has to pay a ticket.
I get that. I think part of the way they get away with it is that the fine is not crazy. You're kind of like,
yeah, there are limitations on the fine.
You're like, all right.
I think if photo red light violations are limited by the state statute, I think it's ridiculous. The most dangerous drivers are those who run red lights, and they get no points against their ticket, against their driver's license, and they get an $80 fine. That's it. I think it's ridiculous. Okay. I think everybody should.
I'd agree with you on that one. There's an intersection that I have to drive at dark 30 this morning getting here, and every time I'm there at a red, once it turns green, I count to 3. Because at least once a week, someone comes through and those 3 seconds going through the red light because they don't think anybody else is on the street. And so I've just learned from a couple of close calls for the last few years, that intersection, no, you do not push that one.
Nope. Korey, I really appreciate the call.
Thank you.
Somebody texted in, we need to have you on the schedule. You're a great guest, Korey.
Yeah, we should.
This was totally unplanned. Just him listening, calling in, and providing this type of expertise. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much, Korey.
Thank you. And we'll be in touch.
By the way, someone 3,300. with all the people on OnlyFans, I think we as a society are pretty clear about our privacy.
Yes. In fact, that's the key is if we would just force the law enforcement to subscribe to our OnlyFans things, see everything we're doing. You're paying me $7.99 a week. Okay. You can watch everything.
You can watch everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just got to pay me a little bit.
Yes, absolutely, officer.
Hey, speaking of good lawyers, if you end up needing a good lawyer, I strongly recommend Dan Kaplis. I've known Dan Kaplis for years. He's pro-life, pro-family, pro-America. He is with us on all the values, and that matters because who you choose to represent you in an injury case says a lot about you to everyone involved in the case. Dan's a former son of a police officer, former seminarian. He's dedicated the last 40 years of his life to helping people who are hurt in serious motor vehicle crashes. Dan is believed to be the only lawyer in Colorado history to win 5 straight multi-million-dollar verdicts in Colorado crash cases. He's also believed to have won the largest truck crash verdict in Colorado history. You want a Titan in the courtroom with you when you go in to face those battles. Dan Kaplis Law is the official law firm partner of the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche. Dan Kaplis Law is a serious firm for serious cases. Dan accepts righteous injury cases on a percentage fee basis so that he can represent good people from all walks of life without regard to ability to pay. If you need Dan's help, give him a call, 303-770-5551, or hit dankapleslaw.com. That's Dan, CAPLIS law.com. Give him a call, 303-770-5551. Dan is the best. All right. When we return, we'll get to your calls and texts. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour in Berlin, I'm Trent Murray, and here are the top stories we're following. In the US, independent voters are increasingly unhappy with the economy, and that could affect the presidential race come November. From New York, Haley Bianco has the details.
In the University of Michigan's monthly consumer sentiment survey, political independents have drifted closer this year to the negative views of the economy held by Republicans. Independents typically occupy the center ground in the closely watched survey, but that's been changing since January, and it's another indication of the difficulty President Biden faces when it comes to votes on the economy ahead of November's election.
The CDC is warning Americans about the importance of correctly cooking wild game after 6 people fell ill in South Dakota. The diners became sick after eating undercooked bear meat at a family reunion. Investigations show the meat, which was served rare, contained roundworms, prompting the CDC to tell Americans that wild game needs to be cooked to at least 165 degrees Fahrenheit. As indicated with a meat thermometer. They say that colour alone is not a safe enough way to check that all the parasites have been killed off in the cooking process. And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm Trent Murray in Berlin on Salem News Channel.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Great conversation on drones and their use in Denver. Let's go to Jim in Littleton. Jim, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show. Good morning.
Hey, good morning. Great program. What's a quick question for you? So you guys were talking about the speeding and those cameras.
Yeah.
You get tickets that way. So what happens, it's so interesting because now they put on these fast lanes on 470 and I-70, and especially, during the ski season. And I had a situation where I was on one of those lanes and I needed to get off early. Actually, it was at Idaho Springs, and it didn't have the double white lines or the dotted lines, and so I got off, and I got a ticket for that. And I'm like, well, wait a minute, I'm willing to pay to get into it, but I need to get out of it because I was running out of gas.
Yeah, I think in that case, Jim, what they're doing is there's people that are going back and forth cutting. I've read about that. Anyways, appreciate the call, Jim. We're just out of time.
Yeah.
This is the Jeff and Bill Show.
Newstalk 710 KNUS. Keep listening, Jim. I got something for you after this break.
in the Mile High City. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show.
You know, did you hear this song? This is way before you. This is way before you.
What is the name? I'm looking for the name of it.
This is Rockwell. Somebody's watching me. Yeah, this is a mid 80s, 83, 84 would
Did
be about the time
someone adjust
this
this in light of our conversation?
I don't know. It
Did
just
you do
dropped
that?
in here. I didn't do this. This is fantastic. And talking to Jim from last hour, there is a way that you can dispute those toll tickets that you get on I-70.
yeah.
However, It is a government bureaucracy, so they make it as difficult as possible. You have to dial a 1-800 number, and then there are slots that are available for you to have conversations and dispute the ticket. And there are never any slots available. Never. So,
Really?
So the idea is we have a system. The system doesn't work at all.
No, and you and I were talking offline.
Yeah.
Once they make it illegal to have phones in your hand, they'll get you for that.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, this is all revenue stream. We know how much government loves revenue
Exactly.
streams.
Now, I do know that the law regarding the toll lanes and the company that has to watch them, if you are given a ticket and if you feel that you have gotten it incorrectly, they do have to send you, it's a 5-second video of how the infraction happened, etc. And if it doesn't demonstrate that you did what they say you did, or, like with Jim's case, he wasn't sliding in and out of the lanes. He was doing
just
it to
trying
get
to
off.
get out.
Yeah, he probably has something there. I can't say the fine would disappear, but it's worth a shot. If you've got something like that, go ahead and take it.
Well, and I looked into that because they're now on C470, and what they're trying to address, I guess there's serial lane crossers who just go in and out. They treat it like a race course.
It's like the people that think that they're driving in Mario Kart, and they normally drive one of 3 types of vehicles. I'm not going to go into it, but yes, it's three people, the same vehicle.
When we come back from the news, we're going to be talking with Bob Lewis. We tried to have this conversation last week, and the phone kept breaking up. He's a candidate for Elbert County Commissioner, District 1. And we got into a really good conversation about development, particularly as it relates to kind of the Eastern Plains and what's going to happen. And is Aurora just going to spread out into everywhere? But unfortunately,
Aurora's trying to eat Parker right now.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. And we just didn't get the conversation I wanted to because the phone kept breaking up. So Bob was kind enough to join us in studio. We're going to dive into all of this in a second, but let's check in on the news, the Blake Olson news. Good morning, Blake.
Morning, Jeff. Morning, Bill. 61 and mostly sunny in Denver, expecting highs in the mid-80s today. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story.
The public's trust is placed in us to ensure standards for safety are being met.
Denver Civil Service Commission Director Niecy Murray has been fired following comments she made about lowered hiring standards. Murray claimed that the city is allowing police officers and firefighters to move forward with their applications even after failing psychological evaluations and scoring low on entrance exams.
I've really felt, especially in the last several months, that there's a push to ignore some red flags, to give opportunity to try to figure out later whether or not these individuals will be successful.
Commissioners claim Murray tried to prevent her firing by publicly announcing the allegations during a press conference Tuesday. The number of high-paying remote work jobs is shrinking. A new study by the job-seeking website Ladder shows the number of well-paying remote jobs has fallen nearly 60% over the past year. Higher paying jobs are now appearing to require more commitment from their employees, which involves showing up to the office. Jury deliberations begin today in the leftist lawfare trial against former President Trump. A jury will now consider whether Trump is guilty of nearly 36 charges related to bookkeeping. We heard from Raging Bull Robert De Niro earlier, but a few actors like Dennis Quaid are speaking out for the former president.
I think I'm going to vote for him.
Really?
Yeah, in the next election. Yes, I am.
Are you ready for the blowback?
Well, yeah.
If it inevitably comes.
Well, I think this election, everybody's got to, I think they're going to take a side or whatever, but it just makes sense. I was ready not to vote for Trump until what I saw is more than politics. I see a weaponization of our justice system.
Yeah.
Quaid was on with Pierce Morgan. Trump's former lawyer, Jenna Ellis, is agreeing to give up her law license in Colorado for 3 years after pleading guilty to illegally trying to overturn the 2020 presidential election in Georgia. Weld County woke up to storm damage as severe weather created plenty of problems last night. Neighborhoods in and around Greeley and Johnstown were hit hard with heavy rain and powerful winds enough to cause extensive street flooding.
The cars around me had water halfway up their doors. At that point, I decided to put my car into reverse because it just looked like it was getting deeper and deeper.
Carlin and some in Greeley saw hail the size of ping pong balls, and more is expected today up and down I-25, expected on your commute home. Hundreds of thousands are still without power in Dallas County after severe storms pummeled northeast Texas. They're expecting multi-day power outages. A man is dead following a 4-vehicle crash on I-25 in Thornton on Tuesday night. A wrong-way driver collided with 4 other vehicles heading northbound. The wrong-way driver died in the crash while several other people were taken to a hospital. A section of I-25 was temporarily closed after the crash, and there's no word on the current condition of the other victims. NHL, the Stars lead the Oilers 2-1, and Game 4 is tonight in Edmonton. The Rockies fall to the Guardians last night, 13-7. Tonight, first pitch, 6:40 at Coors Field. And the T-Wolves avoid elimination, and they defeat the Mavericks last night in Dallas, 105-100. 60 in North Glen, 58 in Englewood, 61 in Denver. Jeff and Bill continue. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Your 7:10 5-day forecast, partly cloudy skies, quite warm today, reaching a low to mid-80s with afternoon showers and thunderstorms, a good bet. Some thunderstorms may be strong. Watch out for that, especially out on the plains. Lows tonight, 50s with thunderstorms ending. Mid to upper 70s Thursday, afternoon and evening thunderstorms. 70s for Friday and Saturday with afternoon and evening thunderstorms. Less storm activity on Sunday. I'm meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. So last week we tried to do an interview with Bob Lewis, but the cell phone out in rural Elbert County just didn't work, and so he's joining us in studio. He's running for Elbert County Commissioner, District 1, and is joining us on the show. We've had a number of county commissioners from Douglas County. Priscilla Ron has joined us. John Carson's going to be joining us soon. We had Mike Buck on last week. He's running for Elbert County Commissioner. Look, in Colorado politics, oftentimes the most influential person over you, your political government, is the most local. And so it's important to cover these races. And Bob, thanks so much for being on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
So let's talk about your vision for Elbert County.
Excellent. Thank you. I've got 3 priorities. Priority number 1 as a candidate is Elbert County first. Protect, promote, serve Elbert County. That's a number 1 without exception. It's about saving the county, keeping the county what it is, and making it what the community wants it to be. There are a lot of forces and folks out there that would have a crosshairs on our county at the state level, even federal level, and even some local private players as well, and some various types of municipalities, water districts, things like that have all got their crosshairs on Elbert County, and I'd like us to make our own decisions on that. So, starting as day 1 as commissioner on through, it's going to be about what the folks of Elbert County need and want, and a number 1 first. The second element of my campaign is to preserve our resources, and that really leads into our 300-year water rule. I'm super serious about that. I made that a key element of my campaign when I started this thing almost a year ago. 300-year water rule effectively limits by 2/3 the amount of development possible in Elbert County. And that came out of a study we did in the late 90s, early 2000-ish. A guy by the name of Dr. Jerry Cook, and he said, we're living on aquifers out here. We don't have a river running through us, and we don't have a big ski mountain with a lake. We've got to figure out how to make this water last for a long time. And so we started on that path to adopting a 300-year water rule. We are now well into it. When I was on planning commission and we redid the comprehensive plan, they tried to get rid of it. They told us, hey, this isn't necessary. The state has a 100-year water rule under SB 5, it was in 1973, when there was less than 2 million people living in the state. And we dug in our heels. Dan Rosales was chair, myself and other planning commissioners. We dug in our heels and we retained that. And it's had great benefits for us. So number 2 is preserve our resources, and that could also account to all resources within the county. And then the third is to preserve our lifestyle. First and foremost, the only reason I lived there is because I didn't want my kids to grow up in an urban setting. I know what that looks like, and we moved from an urban setting, and I wanted my kids to have something very different than that. And so they went through the Elizabeth School District. My son was an Eagle Scout in the local 636 Scout Troop. He went on to be he's now a Navy veteran. He's out and living and working here again on the Front Range. My daughter, similar story. Brilliant young lady, speaks about 5 languages and works for a major, a top Fortune 50 company based here on the Front Range. Wife and I have been married for 40 years, 30 of those spent in the same house in District 1 in Elbert County, and couldn't blast us out with dynamite. Things that your commissioner, you mentioned in your intro, you said, it's local. Your local officials are the ones that can seriously affect your life. And there's nothing more true than that. And any issue you want to look at, it falls into that, whether it's your health care, whether it's Second Amendment rights, it's property rights, it's, do you have to wear a mask to go to the grocery store? Are they going to close your school down because somebody said something back in Washington, D.C.? Those are all decisions that come from the local level, and you absolutely must have people who are balanced in the Constitution and know what's right and are willing to take a stand, draw a line in the sand. I believe our rights come from God. It's a gift from God to us. And the only legitimate purpose of a government, be it county, state, federal, any other, the only legitimate purpose of a government is to protect those rights.
Talking with Bob Lewis, he's a candidate for Elbert County Commissioner. Bob, help me circle the square a little bit here, because I appreciate what you're saying, but then I see a lot of the development happening in Elbert County. I see it outside my kitchen door. Mm-hmm. Independence is one of the ugliest developments. It belongs in Aurora. You got these beautiful ranches all around coming into Parker, into Douglas County, all that stuff. And then someone slapped 900 homes, as close as they possibly could, out in Elbert County. And then also the development happening out by Elizabeth too. Went to the Walmart over the weekend out there. That does not belong in Elbert County, in my opinion. That belongs in Aurora. It looks like Aurora's coming right on out to Elbert County.
So let's talk about Independence. Independence began life as a project called Bandera, and they originally were just going to pluck very high density neighborhood, 1/10 of an acre lots, something similar to Clark Farms or Bradbury Ranches in Parker. Very, very, very urban. They were going to drop it right in the middle of that 1,000 acres that's right there on County Road 158 at County Road 5. I live right in Ponderosa Park, which is just below you, a little bit to the southeast. So that just wasn't going to fly. At the time, they had a rule that they called adjacency. And what that adjacency rule was, kind of a trick that development planners played on the county and got them to pass. If you built a high density project here, the next property over the fence was automatically zoned for that. And we rolled that back with our rewrite in 2018 of the comprehensive plan. We got rid of that forever. Every project should have to stand on its own. When we got into that, I showed up, it was already had been filed when I was on planning commission, and we got it down then to 979 houses. And it had a buffer around the outside of it. In terms of the architecture of the homes, I'm not going to comment on that. I'm largely in agreement with you on it. And from a land use perspective, it had a pretty good sized buffer all the way around the outside of the project. It had wildlife corridors, it had walking trails and paths. And I think we felt like that was the best we could do. We prevented the developer from selling water out of the county, except in an emergency. He could sell in an emergency or for fire services and things like that. But other than that, they weren't going to allow him. The pressure came on that we got him to agree to that.
But aren't they just going to continue? I know their plans now. They're going to build more out by Kiowa. They're just going to continue to move out. So
on that
how
one,
do you kind of
on that one we ended up with the best we could get, and we felt pretty good about it. And then I was disappointed when the commissioners then added density, because it's going to be 1,400 homes. I think it's going to be 1,387 now. And my approach to that, had I been commissioner, would have been, you've made promises to the county, Mr. Developer. We've made promises in return. Let's have you finish this project as advertised, and then if you want to do work in the future, we'll see how this goes and figure out whether or not that's something that the county's going to help you with, and or we'll work with you on. But that's not the way it went, and I'm very disappointed with the county on that. Still, each project should stand on its own. It should architecturally fit the community. It should have the characteristics that I outlined and then some. A good one that you might be familiar with, and the listeners won't be, but it's Gamble Oaks. So that's one where those are 1/4 to 0.4 acre lots. There's lots of open space worked in between the houses and wildlife corridors. There's even a large percentage of the land is held on the side down there for open space. So it's a good fit. It has central water today, and it's paved. Something like that would have a central sewer system as well.
But didn't you approve Independence as a planning commissioner?
I did, and I just explained that. What we went through on that. I thought that was the best deal we were going to get.
So would you approve continued development like that?
I wouldn't have approved the second, the redo on that. Like I just said, they increased the density from 979 to 1387. I would have messaged back to the developer, finish the project the way you promised it. And going forward, I feel like we've set a precedence that developers know that they can increase density and maybe perhaps renegotiate something down the road once you feel like you've put together a project that fits the community. The community is reasonably happy with it. It meets the comprehensive plan, which needs to be updated, by the way. I think that we've set a precedence that they can renegotiate that, and I don't like that at all. So I would go into a project, whatever this is, there's going to be no renegotiation on density in the future. You're going to, barring some unusual circumstance, you're going to be held exactly to that, whatever the standard is.
Now, Bob Lewis, candidate for Elbert County Commissioner, on the air with Jeff and Bill, and he took the drive in. We so appreciate it because, well, cell phone technology let us down last week. Now, you were just talking
especially from Elbert County.
Yeah, exactly.
Let me tell you, brother.
Now, you were talking a minute ago about holding the developers to their promise based on what they promised inside of that development.
Yes.
One of the problems that I see is in many of these local elections, especially for commissioner, the developers write really big checks. And in order to maintain that office, in order to stay in power to accomplish what you need, chances are you're going to need some money from those developers. They're the ones that are going to want you to bend those rules and to acquiesce when they want to go from 979 to over 1,300. I would submit the reason that happened was because of the checks they had been writing to other people. And that's what I'm wondering is, how do you insulate yourself from that? Because without their money, you can't get reelected. And if you can't get reelected, you can't make the rules.
All right. So my priority is not to be reelected. My priority is to do the right thing. And if that means I'm not elected, then, that's okay.
I think we found the problem in politics.
if they round up another candidate to run against me, I'm totally cool with that. I'm retired from my previous business, and the fishing poles are in the car. So I'm more than happy to tell somebody to stuff it if they think that they're going to
But some of your opponents have decided we're not going to accept checks from developers. Mike Buck, Jonathan Waller, I believe is his name, is we're not going to take money from developers. You are receiving donations from developers.
I have.
So how do you maintain that independence?
Well, first of all, about 70% of my campaign is self-funded. I'm not going to tell somebody, I think the one you're talking about is Yates, and he gave me $500 and he said, would that hurt your campaign? And I said, no, I'm not a politician. I don't want to be that guy that says, yeah, I'll do something and no, you can't send me money because it'll show up on Tracer. No, if you support my campaign, send me money. Understand the only thing you're getting is competence. You're not getting a decision ever from me. I'm going to do what's right for the county. My motto, the campaign motto, is ride for the brand. And there's 3 elements in that saying. It's duty, pride, and stewardship. Your duty, your allegiance, your fidelity is 100% to your client. It's the famous fiduciary responsibility that an attorney doctor has. That's where I consider it. I'm not corruptible in that manner. Pride, I live in Elbert County on purpose. I raised a family there, and I'm running for this office because I think it's very important. I take complete pride in, and I want to maintain the integrity of that community. The community needs to be part of the decisions, and right now there's a disconnect. And finally, stewardship. I want your kids and mine to be able to come back there in the future, buy a home, and it be pretty much what we left it as. So we're going to leave it in better shape than it was before. If somebody gives me money, that's not they're not buying me. I've lived there for 30 years. I have a great reputation in the community. I've been involved in the community for that virtually that whole time. Lisa and I, that magazine you get for the Elizabeth Stampede that comes out. Well, we invented that as a tool to raise money for the Stampede. On our very first year, we raised like $40,000, and essentially that's allowed the Stampede to be financed in perpetuity. That's the level of my commitment to Elbert County, and we were sponsorship chair 6 or 7 years, and when I turned it over in great shape. And then moved on from there. And well that I'm involved in a lot of other things.
I think that's your reputation is that you're actively involved in the Republican Party in Elbert County. I think the concern, though,
I'm actively involved in the community.
In the community, yeah. The concern, and I saw this up close and personal, is you go into these planning commission meetings, and man, I've never felt more like a third wheel on a date in my life, right? The county leadership and the developers are so happy. County leadership, we're going to get all this tax revenue. Look at all this development. And they get into this cycle of, well, we need tax revenue to improve the fire services or our schools. And these big high density multifamily developments are going to provide that. So they fall in love with the idea of this. And the developers are going to maximize the space as much as they can. And those of us that got out of Highlands Ranch, right? Mm-hmm. And I made the argument that Highlands Ranch is a 25-point swing, and now has a Democrat in charge of representing Highlands Ranch down at the state capitol, in part because they allowed that development to come in. Not entirely, but in part. And so I think, I see donors on there from developers. I see guys that I've had to deal with that are building these types of big developments. And you see those donations come in, you go, same boss as the old boss. As Chris Richardson has, gotten involved with the developers, and all of a sudden he won't even return a phone call from me. So that's where my frustration comes from.
You have to take that up with Chris. All right, let's unpack. You asked a bunch of questions all at once, so let's unpack parts of that. First of all, if you have a problem with the existing commissioners, I can arrange a sit down with them anytime you want, and I believe that they will return your call and sit down and support whatever decisions they've made. I'm not here to carry their water. All right. If we do the process right, the negotiation and the changes that are made to projects are not done at the vote on one of these meetings. They're all done in the background. And if the project is qualified and it's moving forward, it's because people are working to get things, taken care of at each step. The original filing, the original plat review, the original concept meeting, the original plat review, all of those things, feedback comes back from all of the stakeholders in a project. So, that could be the sheriff's department, the fire department, the schools, rec center, absolutely road and bridge, especially. And they're going to provide feedback and say, you can't put that road there. Our projections of traffic are going to do this and that. So in order for you to do this, you got to build a new road over here. And yeah, it's expensive, but it's the only way it's going to work. You didn't see that happen because it was handled professionally in the background. So it appears that they show up and it's a fait accompli. It isn't. There were times when I was chair of the planning commission, I told the planning and development department, it's okay for you guys just to say no. This isn't a good fit for Albert County because they're butting their heads against some project that just wasn't a good fit. Just tell them no. Well, then they say, well, they'll sue us. Let them. How successful are they going to be as a land use company if they're constantly suing the people that essentially they, in many ways, they've got to get instruction from? So I've got no problems with that. As far as I'm concerned, each thing's got to stand on its own merits. Let's talk a little bit about where we're at on our comprehensive plan, because I think we've gone awry in a couple of places with it. Our first rewrite of it, it was, it wasn't appropriate the way it was written before. It was written in a regulatory format. Well, this is supposed to be a visionary document, your master plan / comprehensive plan. And then from that, you write all of your regulations. All right. Because we want very little light pollution in Elbert County, we will state that in the comprehensive plan, and then we'll write regulations to make that happen. The only places where lights will be allowed is occupied, buildings. You're not allowed to have the sodium lights running all night long, all across the prairie. Those types of things come up in the regulation. So when we did that rewrite, it's now 6 years old. It should have been completed at 5 years. So that would have been addressed, a little over a year ago for an update at that time. And when you do these, you bring the public in and we set them down. We do focus groups. We do public meetings. All of the meetings that are work groups for a new comprehensive plan are public. So you may not be able to, as a member of the public, come in and speak at each one of those workshops, but you can sit there and listen to the dialogue between the experts, the stakeholders, and the commissioners / planning commissioners. And it's a good thing. It's a good thing to develop, but we have allowed that to slide, and there's a strong undercurrent of disappointment. I call it a disconnect.
Yeah.
And we need to sit down and go through that. And people like you need to have your voices heard.
I appreciate that, because there is this sense that it's kind of the property rights rule all, right, mentality, which is if I buy it, I get to do what I want with it. And my response has always been to folks like that, and I've run into some of these debates in Elbert County, is, all right, well, would you allow Planned Parenthoods to buy property out in Elbert County? And they go, well, no, I don't. But so, if they follow the rules and they got the property, they can do whatever they want with it. And the rest of us are going, well, don't lose Elbert County. All right.
Well, so
we'll continue.
Just to put a cap on that, let's make sure the rules are meeting the needs of the community.
Yes, I agree with you on that. All right, we'll continue this conversation. Bob Lewis, who's a candidate for Elbert County Commissioner, joining us in studio. Do you have a high school student considering their college plans? Are they ready to discover more about their gifts and talents? Do you hope to see them become part of the next generation of Christian leaders? Your student is invited to Colorado Christian University's Discovery Preview. This week-long event is completely free. Discovery Preview is designed for students who desire to seek God's purpose and calling in their lives. Students are immersed in the community, culture, and mission of CCU. Workshops focused on calling, career, and Christ-centered leadership help them explore their unique strengths and potential career options. CCU's Christ-centered community takes students on a Rocky Mountain adventure to experience the beauty of all that we have here in Colorado. Eligible students can also qualify for a $1,250 annual scholarship for attending. Don't miss Discovery Preview this summer, June 17th through the 21st. The event is designed for juniors and seniors in high school. And again, it's absolutely free. To learn more about CCU, go to ccu.edu/discovery. That's ccu.edu/discovery. By the way, congratulations to Colorado Christian University. Their men's team won the NCAA 2 national championship golf team.
That's fantastic. That was really cool.
I'm terrible at golf.
I'm horrible too. Absolutely awful. I've got a back injury, and I still remember the doctor coming in and going, "So, play much golf?" I'm like, "No, not really." He goes, "Well, you don't play any anymore." Because he's done now. I'm like, "Oh, okay. Alrighty then."
We'll continue with Bob Lewis. Give us a call if you'd like to chat with him. Ask him any questions. 303-696-1971. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour in Berlin, I'm Trent Murray, and here are the top stories we're following. A US pilot has been seriously injured after the Air Force plane he was flying went down late Tuesday in New Mexico. The Defense Department said the aircraft was a developmental model of the F-35 fighter jet, which was being flown from Albuquerque to Edwards Air Force Base in Southern California. Authorities said the pilot was conscious when he escaped the wreck, but is now in hospital in a serious condition. The cause of the crash is being investigated. South Korea is accusing North Korea of sending balloons full of trash, propaganda, and human excrement across its fortified border. Chris Gilbert has the details.
South Korea is calling the act base and dangerous. It wants any residents who spot one of these balloons to report it, to keep their distance, and let military specialists investigate. South Korea, of course, has sent its own balloons in the other direction on occasion, sending balloons full of propaganda leaflets and debris towards North Korea. Pyongyang says that this sailing is a response to those. It says it wants the South Koreans to know what it's like to have to clean up the mess.
And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm Trent Murray in Berlin on Salem News Channel.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Bob Lewis, a candidate for Elbert County Commissioners, joining us. We're talking about growth and development, whether or not that's all just going to continue to go east. I do want to ask you about what happened in Elizabeth and the op-ed in the Gazette. So you wrote, planned community will benefit all in Elizabeth. There was supposed to be a development that took place right around the city of Elizabeth. And then it went to a vote of the voters, and they said no.
Yes.
So is there a disconnect between you and the voters of County?
There's a possibility. My prediction, the article said that this was approved by all the stakeholders, including the town council, their planning and development department, because the township of Elizabeth does its own planning. It's not part of the county's planning system, broadly speaking. All of, the police, the fire, the school district in particular, they have in years past been concerned that we don't have enough students in the county and in the Elizabeth School District. And they're, straight up in years past have talked about what are we going to do if we don't get more families. And so broadly speaking, that was approved by the town. And then it was put to a vote. And I said, what's going to probably happen here is you're going to lose a lot of the opportunity, the money that would come out of it. We had identified the township as a place for higher density housing in our original comprehensive plan. They did theirs immediately after us, and they agreed and wholeheartedly went in on that assessment. So from my position, outside of it, I'm saying, this is in compliance. It probably ought to go through. Also, the way the township is landlocked now. So this was the last bite at an apple to have any development in the area. And they ended up with the development going through. It's still going on at a lower density. So they're going to have that neighborhood. They're going to have all the problems associated with the neighborhood in the same location, but they're going to get no benefit for it. So they're going to have traffic and congestion and
what do you mean
crime.
they're not going to get any benefit from it?
Well, they don't get any impact fees. That all went to the county. Plus it went to county rules. So whatever special nuanced rules that the township had adopted to make new projects compliant with the town's vision don't exist anymore. Now they're building it to county spec, and that's just not a good fit because the township itself has a different personality than something that's out in the rural county areas. So I thought that was a bad thing to do, to have it become de-annexed, go out and become a county project. You just don't get the benefits for any of it, but you get all of the headaches of having that project right there on your doorstep. And so that was the point I was making with that.
Yeah. So we got to this right at the end, and this is the disconnect that I think we're trying to figure out. And I think hopefully under your leadership, you can figure out as well, is the developers go through the process, right? They work with the city and the whole process you talked about, the firefighters, the police, everybody. And they go, okay, we're going to greenlight this. And then the people that live in there are like, no, we don't like this. So how do you fix that?
We do a terrible job in our county of communicating with the public. Now when we rewrote our comp plan, a comprehensive plan, a master plan, we went out of our way. We included hundreds of people in that drafting of it. And as we visualized it and worked our way into it, like I said, we focus grouped it. We did a lot of stuff, and that was it. And that's been 6 years ago now. And that was the last time that we took, I don't know, I'm not going to speak for the current commissioners. I'll let them in the current planning department answer more of that question. My interpretation of events is we don't do a good job of continuing a dialogue. You don't go over to your neighbor and say, hey, I'm going to build a fence here. And then that's the last time you talk to him. And as the fence goes up, now he's mad because you didn't accommodate some need that he or she had. Instead, you include them in the entire process so they understand what's happening and they're in agreement with it, and you can make adjustments. A point I was going to make earlier is every time you write a letter, that's to speak at a public meeting, but you can write as lengthy and detailed a commentary as you wish. Every one of them goes in the file and has to be addressed by the applicant. And so we would frequently see somebody say, hey, this won't work because of this. And, everybody would look at it and go, yeah, you're right. And we would make a change, or we would ask the applicant to make a change in the plan to accommodate that. And it was like logical stuff that everybody, that
I think
doctors and lawyers couldn't figure out.
Well, I think what people are looking for, because I used to live in Los Angeles, lived in Pasadena, went to grad school there. It is just as far as you can see. And eventually they just ran up against mountains. And in Colorado, that development is just going to continue to go east. It's going to continue to go east and east and east because there's nothing to stop it. And I think there's some folks from Colorado that would like a Kevin Costner like figure to come in and go, development stops with me. We're not going to turn Denver into Los Angeles.
All right. I never see Elbert County being like Aurora, period. It just won't. First of all, the geography is different. The traffic, the way we're going to ever come and go in and out of those communities is very different. So it's not going to be, it's not like we have the 225 and the I-25 and the I-70 on all of on the borders, and that feeds super high density traffic. That's just not going to exist. And so we're in a different world, a bit of a bubble. The next point I would make is we are smart people, we in Elbert County, and these are brilliant people that live in this county. They have the absolute ability to take, to look at a circumstance and say, hey, here's a solution. I've seen it, I've lived there since 1994. And I'm just here to tell you that there's no way that we're going to allow that to happen. We do need to talk to each other, and our county government needs to talk to our county government absolutely needs to communicate continuously. A frustration I hear, and I heard it, I've heard it the whole time I've been involved. I was initially involved in a transportation committee, and then when we did a task force, stood that up back in 2009, 2022, I was involved in the redo of that. I was involved in what's called a board of adjustments, which is, because I have a bit of a land use background, it's hybrid zoning that the county does. We do special meetings to accommodate people that the zoning isn't quite there. It doesn't quite work for what they intend to do. So I was in the board of adjustments for 6 years, and then I worked through the planning commission. So, that's kind of my background in this. So during that whole time, people would say something to the effect of, I had no idea that was happening until there was a yellow sign on the road. Yep. The way around that is there's a minimum state statute that says you have to identify, you have to notify the people immediately surrounding the property, like a quarter mile off the center line. Hey, let's just identify more people than that. There's no law against telling more people and bringing more of the community in. There's no law against, we were terrible at this before. We're getting better. You can go online and see the status of applications and see the locations today. Until just very recently, you couldn't do that. We need to bring as much of this up to daylight so folks can see it earlier. I think that's important. So I would work to get communication in place early, and I would work to have a better just a better communication plan all the way around, and a comprehensive plan that better meets the needs of the community.
Talking about Bob Lewis, he's a candidate for Elbert County Commissioner, District 1. Let's go to the phone lines. Beth, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Beth.
Hi, good morning. How are you?
We're great. What's on your mind?
Good. So, Bob, I was just listening, and I'm a resident of Elbert County, and one of the things that I heard, Bob, you said yourself, you've lived in Elbert County for 30 years. You've lived in Elizabeth 30 years. So with that, with the aging population of Elbert County and Elizabeth, I know that growth is going to have to happen, but what do we do for our senior resources? What are we doing for our senior citizens and that aging population that's currently here?
I totally agree with you. We need to lean forward in the saddle on that. The county was essentially broke 7 years ago. I don't know, Beth, how long you've lived out there, but basically they weren't able to make payroll on a week-to-week basis. It was really rough. We're finally through competent management, at least financially, we're in a position now where we've got a few dollars saved. We've got a revenue stream that's working for the county, and we could probably start investing in programs. And there's programs available through grant. And I'm a huge believer. We pay so much. Beth, we pay so much in taxes to the federal and state government. One of the ways we can get that back for our community is getting grant money to take care of seniors. Maybe it's a senior meal, maybe it's a senior program to give them a ride to the doctors, because from where you and I live, it's 45 minutes to an hour to get to a specialist. And, round trip is 2 hours of windshield time. And there's going to be folks that that absolutely need help with that. So I see that as we'll find some grants to help cover that. And maybe we'll prioritize some money to go into that kind of program. I've been not regularly, but I've been attending off and on a senior lunch that takes place over at the American Legion Hall, post 82. And we've got, there's a lot of fellowship going on there with guys and gals, having a sandwich and playing pinochle. And so there's plenty we can do. We haven't done a lot of it in the past. I think we're finally maturing as a county, that we can start doing more of that, find creative ways to do it.
Beth, I appreciate the call. Beth calling in. I believe she might have been out in Elbert County. Thanks so much. We're going to get to Bert here in just a second. I want to talk to you all about American financing. A lot of us are struggling to keep up with everyday bills, food, gas, and even that power bill. If you own a home, I want you to call my friends at American Financing. Interest rates have dropped into the 5s, which is nearly a quarter of the average credit card rate. American Financing is saving their customers an average of $854 a month by tapping into their home's equity and wiping out that high interest credit card debt. $854 a month is like a $10,000 raise. Credit card interest rates are insane, and most of us are still carrying a balance from month to month. Call American Financing and take care of that today. And if you call today, you may not have to make next month's mortgage payment. American Financing, 303-695-7000. That's 303-695-7000. AmericanFinancing.net and MLS 182334 NMLS ConsumerAccess.org. APR for rates in the 5 start at 6.799% for well-qualified borrowers. Call 303-695-7000 for details about credit costs and terms. Bob Lewis, candidate for Elbert County Commissioner, joining us in studio. We're going to get to the phone lines next. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Bob Lewis, candidate for Elbert County Commissioner, District 1, joining us in studio. Let's go to Bert, Fort Lupton. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show. Good morning, Bert.
Good morning. How you guys doing? Great show this morning.
Thank you. What's your question for Bob?
Hey, Bert.
I understand, Bob. Hi, Bob. I understand you were out visiting many of the communities throughout Elbert County and just shaking hands and getting to know a lot of the people in the area. What was your goal, your specific goal to gain by doing that throughout our community?
Thank you. Yeah, I've been trying to get out to the eastern half of the county. A lot of the action takes place politically, as you know, maybe either you know or you don't know, but a lot of it happens in that northwest corner in the Elizabeth area and in the interface with Douglas County. There's a lot of people that are out there in the eastern half of the county. And so we did a lot of appearances in Simla and Kiowa and other locations to include the eastern half of the county in the dialogue that we're creating here. Everybody's a citizen and they're all equal. And the folks in the eastern half of the county really feel like it's like they rarely see a patrol car, that they rarely see a road grader. They feel like they're getting short shrift. And my view of it is, even though I'm a District 1 commissioner, the commissioners are voted in at large, and we represent the entire county. If an emergency goes down, I'll be out there doing what I can to lead from the front, just like the other commissioners would. And so that's what that's all about. In fact, although I'm fairly well known in the county Republican Party, this is a Republican primary coming up, will be completed on the 25th of June. I still petitioned on. I went out in front of Safeway and I talked to thousands of people. To begin with, we had to talk to 2 people to get a signature. By the end of that process, we were talking to 4 or 5 because people had already signed petitions. So I went out of my way to get to know people and their concerns.
Bert, appreciate the call. We're just out of time. Bob Lewis joining us in studio. His website, if you want to learn more about him, lewisforelbert.com. lewisforelbert.com. You can learn more about his vision for Elbert County. Bob, thanks so much for being in the studio with us. Really appreciate
it. It's amazing to watch the pros at work here.
Well, we're grateful.
Tell us when they show up, because I want to watch them too.
Coming up next, we're going to host the presidential nominee for the Libertarian Party. Chase Oliver joins us via Zoom. You're not going to want to miss that. And Mike Termott, the vice president nominee. We got the whole ticket, Libertarian ticket. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. You've tuned in to us, 710 KNUS, and I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, center, and sometimes libertarian. Coming up here in just a minute, the libertarian nominee for president of the United States, Chase Oliver, is going to be joining us on the show, along with his vice presidential pick, Mike Dermott. Looking forward to hosting them. Let's check in first on the news, the Blake Olson news. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, good morning, Jeff and Bill. 67, mostly sunny in Denver, expecting highs in the mid-80s today. Anticipating more severe weather this afternoon, so be on the lookout for that. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story, a ceasefire in the Gaza Strip, is being called for by the world's largest humanitarian network, the International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies, issued a call today for unimpeded access to the millions of Palestinians in Gaza who are facing starvation. Leaders say a political solution that will allow aid to get in is desperately needed. Jury deliberations began today in the leftist lawfare trial against former President Trump. The jury instructions are the key to the fate of Trump. The defense and prosecution argued over the exact language before Judge Juan Marsham talked about it, and he leads the way. He alone will decide on the content of the instructions the jury will use while deliberating.
The public's trust is placed in us to ensure standards for safety are being met.
Denver Civil Service Commission Director Niecy Murray has been fired following comments she made about lowered hiring standards. Murray claimed that the city is allowing police officers and firefighters to move forward with their applications even after failing psychological evaluations and scoring low on entrance exams.
I've really felt, especially in the last several months, that there's a push to ignore some red flags, to give opportunity to try to figure out later whether or not these individuals will be successful.
Commissioners claim Murray tried to prevent her firing by publicly announcing the allegations during a press conference on Tuesday. And Bob Lewis, candidate for Elbert County Commissioner, on with the fellas last hour, and he says one of his priorities is lifestyle in the county, and it'd be almost impossible to force him out of there.
Wife and I have been married for 40 years, 30 of those spent in the same house in District 1 in Elbert County. Couldn't blast us out with dynamite. Your local officials are the ones that can seriously affect your life, and there's nothing more true than that. And any issue you want to look at, it falls into that, whether it's your health care, whether it's Second Amendment rights, it's property rights.
Water is also one of his top priorities as he seeks victory. A man is dead following a 4-vehicle crash on I-25 in Thornton Tuesday night. A wrong-way driver collided with vehicles heading northbound. The wrong-way driver died in the crash, while several other people were taken to the hospital. No word on the current condition of the other drivers. Coors Field last night, Rockies fall to the Guardians 13-7. Tonight, first pitch, 6:40. And you thought commitment to excrement only applied to the Raiders.
Would you like to ride in my beautiful balloon? The South Korean military says over 260 large balloons have been seen floating over the border this week with objects tied to them. Most of the balloons landed on the ground, and military response teams were sent to inspect and collect the objects, which turned out to be trash and excrement. The balloons seem to be in response to South Korean balloons that were sent north recently, carrying anti-Pyongyang leaflets, mini radios, and flash drives with K-pop music. Smooth like butter. I'm Michael Kastner.
Thank you for that.
I want to be in that planning meeting, because you know that Kim Jong-un is there going, okay, guys, I've called you all here because the South Koreans have sent over their K-pop and their leaflets. How can we respond? And some guys like missiles. No, that seems that'll get the U.S. involved. Shall we attack them? No, the international incident. Sir, have we considered poop? Ooh, Johnson, I like how you think. You're going places. Yes, let's talk to me more about the poop and the balloons. There had to be a planning meeting for this stuff. Come on.
Have you heard what the American kids do?
Yes,
they used
exactly.
to put it in bags and
Yes.
I would have loved to have been in that meeting.
Can we get the South Koreans to start eating the Tide Pods? What did you mean? Again, I would have loved to see that just brainstorm planning session.
Oh, man. Oh, man, you know what? It just never surprises me.
Yep.
Every morning I come in here. All right, 62 in Brighton, 64 in Castle Rock, and 67 in Denver. Jeff and Bill continue. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Your 7:10 5-day forecast, partly cloudy skies, quite warm today, reaching a low to mid-80s with afternoon showers and thunderstorms, a good bet. Some thunderstorms may be strong. Watch out for that, especially out on the plains. Lows tonight, 50s with thunderstorms ending. Mid to upper 70s Thursday, afternoon and evening thunderstorms. 70s for Friday and Saturday with afternoon and evening thunderstorms. Less storm activity on Sunday. I'm meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Coming from the BBC, Libertarians ignore Trump and RFK to pick Chase Oliver. The Libertarian Party has selected Chase Oliver as their 2024 presidential candidate, rejecting overtures from Donald Trump and Robert F. Kennedy. Mr. Trump did not file paperwork to be considered a candidate during the voting process, and Mr. Kennedy lost in the first round. Mr. Oliver's victory comes after 7 rounds of voting at the party's convention, which took place in Washington, and he joins us on the Jeff and Bill Show. Chase, thanks so much for being on the program.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you for having us.
So let's talk about, let's introduce you first to our audience. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a 38-year-old activist out of Atlanta, Georgia. I spent 13 years working in the restaurant industry, doing everything from being a dishwasher to actually running restaurants and opening up new businesses for entrepreneurs. And I moved my way into the world of logistics, where I learned about how interconnected markets are and about how great free trade is. And so I've always been a libertarian activist, and I just got into the political realm because I just said people need to have more choices out there, and certainly my generation, the millennial generation, needs to get to work representing this country. So I'm happy to be a millennial candidate for president and one who supports free markets, voluntary exchange, and the idea that if you're not harming anybody, your life should be your life.
And Mike, we've hosted you on the program before. You joined us when you were out here in Colorado. Welcome back.
Thank you very much. I wish I were in Colorado with you right now rather than outside of the White House, but it is a gorgeous day here, and I hope you're having a good day too.
So what are you guys doing outside the White House there? We can see on video, you get it's beautiful out back.
Yeah, we were just scoping the real estate for potential places to live in a few months. And also, we went by the treasury to make sure we reminded people that we're being taken advantage of by undue taxation. And, you know, really, we're just kind of in the belly of the beast, seeing exactly what departments we're going to get rid of if we were elected. And boy, there's an awful lot of them out here, and it's going to take us all day to see them all.
All right, so traditionally, libertarians get about 2 to 3% of the vote. That was kind of Donald Trump's message in that room. Come on, guys, join the winners, join the Republicans. Why should people vote for libertarians this election cycle?
Because Republicans and Democrats ought to be joining with us. We're the winners because we've got the values that align with Americans. Yeah, absolutely. And I think there are millions of Americans who have expressed extreme dissatisfaction with the two-party system. They're dying for something different. And, you know, we're going to provide something that's very different because it doesn't matter how conservative or how you live your life or if you live your life with different values. If you're not using the force of government, that implies more prosperity, more diversity in the marketplace, more options for people to choose from as consumers. And that's better for everybody. That's how you really build prosperity. And it's time for the next generation to hear this message. And I hope to be the messenger that those young folks in America who are just getting started in the economy could be happy knowing that we have better days ahead of us if we embrace the concepts of liberty and economic freedom.
Talking with Chase Oliver and Mike Termott, a libertarian presidential and vice presidential candidate. these are the big ones for the entire nation. Now, we had yesterday Hannah Goodman. She's the chair of the Colorado Libertarian Party. And Chase, she said she's not a fan, and in fact will likely be supporting Donald Trump. What happened there? Why is Hannah going the other direction?
I don't know exactly why. I've met Hannah a time or two, and I can't speak to her individual choices that she makes out there. But if she doesn't like me personally, I can apologize to her, but I hope she doesn't go for a candidate who raised the deficit more than in a single year than any other, who locked us down with COVID lockdowns and mandates, the candidate who airstriked Syria and killed so many innocent people, and who continued drone bombing without reporting how many civilians it was killing. I hope that any personal disagreement between us would not be something that would make her abandon those libertarian principles, because I want to be a unit candidate. I want to bring libertarians back together from across the spectrum, even if they didn't vote for me on the floor of the convention. I want to be their libertarian candidate, supporting those universal libertarian principles. And so if there's a personality difference, I look forward to meeting her in Colorado and maybe speaking those out, because I sure hope she doesn't abandon liberty for Donald Trump.
I think part of the critique, Chase, is that you'd supported BLM in the past, or transing kids, mask mandates, even men and women's sports.
She called you woke.
Yeah, I think she did. She called you woke. Is that part of the stuff that you support?
I've never supported any mask or vaccine mandates. Absolutely. I oppose the COVID security that came down from our government 100%. Now, what I do say is if you're a property owner, that's your property. You can determine if someone has to wear a mask or shirt or shoes like you do in every gas station across America. That's property rights in action. That's actual liberty. And even if people are making decisions that I don't agree with, that's the marketplace that will determine those out. As for other decisions, of course, I'm somebody who supports police accountability. And I'm not a member of Black Lives Matter because that's a communist organization, but I absolutely support the idea that police need to be held accountable. I was marching in 2020 when the National Guard came to Atlanta, Georgia, and made things way more tense than they needed to be when we were peacefully protesting. And I understand the difference between letting government make decisions for people and letting people make decisions for people. And so when it comes to the ideas of medical care or anything else, I leave that in individual sovereign hands of people who aren't me, because I am not in the business of making medical decisions for other people. And if that makes me, I'm not asleep at the wheel. I'm somebody who understands what's going on in the world. And we have to recognize that liberty affords diversity in this world.
How about open borders? Would you support the mass deportation of illegal immigrants from this country?
If that were even economically feasible, it would be unconscionable. We would lose a major labor market we have in this country that we need. We need these jobs here. What we need to do to fix the immigration crisis is recognize it's not caused by immigrants when it's come here and work and use their power, their labor to create prosperity for themselves. It's done by a government that makes that process nearly impossible. We need a 21st century Ellis Island where peaceful people can come through, declare who they are, and then get to work in the jobs that we need filled across America. And yes, we should also simplify the process for those who come here and work and say, hey, there's an American dream for me too. There should be a process for those people to also become citizens. 40% of this nation can trace a relative that came through Ellis Island in the last major wave of migration. And they built this country. They built the businesses. They built this country up. And we need to afford that for the next generation. I think that's a good thing for our economy and a good thing for our country.
Talking with Chase Oliver and Mike Termont, Libertarian presidential and vice presidential candidate, just got nominated this past weekend, joining us on the Jeff and Bill show. All right, let's talk drugs. Most people, when they look at libertarians, they're like, well, they want what happened in Portland, kind of the full decriminalization of drugs and people using meth in streets and stuff like that. What's your response to the concern about aggressive drug use and drug decriminalization?
I'll let Mike take the lead on that a little
Jeff
bit.
and Bill, look, you guys know I was a police officer for 12 years in Broward County, Florida. Any cop worth his salt who's been paying attention can tell you that the war on drugs doesn't work. We're not advocating that people go out and use drugs. What we're advocating for is getting the government out of it. Indeed, if there's anyone out there who can hear our voice and decide, oh, I think I'll go out and use heroin for the first time because the state of Florida isn't going to stop me from using it. That's silly stuff. That's not going to happen. Cops know that our current regime doesn't work. What it does is it drives drug use into the shadows, into the black market, underground. It makes it exceedingly dangerous. I personally have done CPR on 12 people who have been affected by their drug use because they weren't able to reach out and get the help that they need. We need to bring this market out into the open and treat it like the medical problem that it is.
I want to speak to that medical problem side of things. There are amazing organizations that do direct and mutual aid in these communities to help addicts get off of the drugs, or at least help them use safely until they're ready to get off the drugs, which creates harm reduction. I know of an organization in the state of Oklahoma that has saved over 1,000 lives because they gave out Narcan to users, knowing that, hey, those guys, if they OD, they're going to save themselves the Narcan and think, maybe this is the time for me to get off the drugs. And they've also helped people get sober and back to a stable lifestyle. That is what we need to see from our individual charities and communities. Government doesn't facilitate that very well. They fail at nearly everything they do. To think that they're going to help addicts is also an idea that, well, that's pretty crazy considering they don't do everything else really well. And so I think we need to leave that in the hands of organizations that can provide that. And I hope individuals get to those organizations to help their communities out of this. That's the thing that was missing too much in some of these communities. And I would like to see applied across the country as we end war on drugs.
By the way, fellas, the problem in Portland was not the decriminalization. They have a policing problem. They're not asking their police force to do what it is the citizens want the police force to do. And they didn't fully decriminalize because it's still a licensure problem for who is able to provide these drugs, meaning the drug control, the control of drugs by people who are criminals still goes on.
Yeah, just like we did with Al Capone during Prohibition. Prohibition creates crime. And if you want safer communities, you have to end the practice of prohibition.
Chase Oliver and Mike Dermott, Libertarian presidential and vice presidential candidates, joining Jeff and Bill live on the air. Thank you for your time, gentlemen. I want to explore some of what you were talking about there as far as addiction and recovery. One of the pushes that we've had here by state Democrats are to open up harm reduction sites. I understand and respect what you're saying about not having them be state or federally funded, but instead private funding. The experiences that individuals at the station and elsewhere have done, we've had a field trip up to Vancouver, in and around those safe injection sites, it's nothing you necessarily want in the community. And the recovery from those safe injection sites is a small percentage at best. Is that really the best way forward, or do you feel there's a different way forward as far as addiction recovery?
Well, I'm not an expert in addiction recovery, so I can't speak what would be the best mechanisms. But as you're seeing, the government mechanisms aren't very effective. And I have to believe that the private mechanisms and people who have actually been in the trenches, who aren't bureaucrats who sit on boards, but people who have actually been in the streets as activists reacting to this problem in the streets, many of them former addicts themselves, are going to find better ways to facilitate those things. Here's one thing I will say to those who might be listening out there. If you're suffering from addiction, there is no one path to sobriety. There are many paths to sobriety. I urge you to find them. I know many friends who are used to the path. Actually, one of our candidates who's running alongside us, the Libertarian nomination, is somebody who spoke eloquently about how they overcame addiction in their teens. And that's the kind of message you want to put out there. You can be responsible for yourself, but we don't need some sort of violent government apparatus throwing people in jail and enabling cartels to make profits south of our borders and creating violence south of the border, which is part of the immigration drive we were talking about earlier. We can fix this with better solutions, but it involves listening to those who are actually in the trenches and not people who sit on government boards and have been bureaucrats for decades.
You make a good point there that I can agree with, especially given the experience of Step Denver, a proud supporter of the station and friends of the show, where they take no federal funding and have a really good track record. Not perfect, but a very, very good track record at getting people off the street and getting them through addiction. Because again, it's about accountability and recovery and getting them into jobs. So I can see how that's going. Now, I want to expand and kind of turn this premise of the conversation into the Second Amendment. You talked about prohibition as far as drugs being a negative. Would you say the same thing is true on firearms? In Colorado, we have a balance right now and a real push-pull between our firearm rights. Our Colorado state legislature, controlled by Democrats, just tried in this last session to classify nearly every firearm you can imagine as an assault weapon. Is your solution to some of the issues we're having with gun violence the fact that we need more guns or less guns? Explain, please.
I'll tell you, and I think any cop worth his salt will tell you, is that gun control doesn't work. The truth of the matter is, if you're a police officer and you're in charge of a particular facility, cops all over the United States will tell you they welcome the idea of responsible citizens being armed at that facility, because it is true that good guys with guns make places safer. And taking guns away from people, first of all, it's a violation of our Constitution. Second of all, it's a violation of your right to have whatever object on you that you want. And third of all, it just doesn't work in terms of making our communities safer.
Yeah, I'm from Georgia. We're a constitutional carry state. I can open carry or concealed carry without the need to get a permit. And we're just fine in the state of Georgia. It's not the wild, wild west out there. And I open carry pretty much anywhere I can do so. As an example, to those out there that says you can be a responsible gun owner and be quite visible doing it. I also believe that shall not be infringed is about the most clear constitutional language we can have. And so we need to really take people's hands off their right to self-defense. And, I'll be honest. I know a lot of people who live in rural communities where the police are 20 minutes away at best. If someone's invading property and their family, they should have the right to defend themselves. And as far as these assault weapon bans, people need to remember, assault rifles, the quote-unquote scary rifles they think of, commit less than 3% gun deaths in this country. Most are done with handguns, and everybody knows you have the right to have a handgun. And nobody should be trying to outlaw that. See the Supreme Court if you try. You're right here in Washington, D.C., where they attempted that, and it got smacked down. And I will smack down any kind of gun legislation that would respect your right to take care of yourself, your family, and your property the way you see fit in peace. Because you know what? If you're not trying to shoot anybody that's not trying to harm you, what's the problem?
I appreciate the answer, and I can agree on a lot of that, but I want to focus in on one qualifying phrase that was used in that answer, and that is responsible gun ownership. I am unconvinced that as a whole, Americans are demonstrating responsible gun ownership based on the numbers that we have in gun violence. Can you convince me otherwise?
Well, that's a matter of education. That's a matter of teaching people how better to handle their guns, when to draw, when not to draw, what the situations are when you use a gun. I've always learned that you're not supposed to sit there and wait for the bad guys to come in. The reason why I have a gun is if my home's being invaded, so that I can make my quick exit. And if I need to use it, I will use it. I don't stand there waiting to use it.
I hate to interrupt, but how do we? I understand the idea about education, but how do we accomplish that? Because that is not a tenet anywhere inside the Second Amendment, nor is it as far as any far gun legislation. You don't have to take a single class. You don't have to have a single conversation with anyone realistically before owning a firearm. So explain to me how we get to that education platform that you say is so important in order to make us responsible gun owners. How does that happen?
Guys, education is important, but let's be honest about having a common fact base here. The reason that we have this perception that Americans are not responsible in terms of handling their guns is because there's so much violence in the United States, and that violence often leverages the use of a gun. Almost all of that is either conducted by criminals who would not be dissuaded by any kind of gun control and are not dissuaded by any kind of gun. We're sitting in Washington, D.C., the most gun-controlled place on the planet, and parenthetically, one of the most dangerous places in the world regarding homicide. And the other huge group of gun violence is suicide. No one is asserting that this is a group of horrific incidents that could in any way, shape, or form be reduced because of gun control.
Well, but if the issue is violence or the idea that it's easier to commit suicide, why then would you give those violent people or the people contemplating suicide access to firearms to make it easier for them to either commit the violence that you say they desire or to kill themselves? Why would we make it easier if that's their end goal?
Right. The last time you and I interviewed together, you used the same phrase, advocating, giving. I don't think Chase or I has ever said that we want some program to pass out guns. What we're saying is it's your right to decide for yourself whether or not to have a gun, right? We agree on that. And that if you're going to overcome that ethic somehow, it would at least, even to have a discussion, even to have an argument, you would have to be able to make the case that it makes the world safer. And as a matter of empirical evidence, it doesn't. I think also a lot of the violence that we see in our society is a matter of this hyper-partisanship, the way that we're separating further and further from ourselves. It's indicative of the either-or society that we live in with the two-party system politically, and that you have to be with us or against the society that we have everywhere else. And I think that is that's a cultural problem. And culture is downstream from politics, or politics rather is downstream from culture.
And so that's something we have to change with ourselves. It not necessarily will be changed with any kind of legislation. If we have violence and division in our country, we'll have violence and division with or without guns. But the constitutional language of shall not be infringed is still clear. We have to address those issues in ways that don't involve gun control because the Constitution specifically prevents us from using the method of gun control to try to address these issues.
Well, yes and no. There's an independent clause involved in that Second Amendment, and I'm not going to get English class right now, but it's not as cut and dry as you're leading us to believe.
Talking with Chase Oliver and Mike Termont, Libertarian presidential and vice presidential candidates just nominated over the weekend. So grateful they're on the show. Just a few last questions. We got a text message or a call yesterday from somebody. They saw the sign behind the speakers at the Libertarian convention that said ungovernable, and the A kind of looked like it was the anarchy A. What's your response to people that are concerned that if they nominate a libertarian, we're just going to end up with anarchy?
Well, I'm not an anarchist. I'm philosophically a minarchist. Small government, it's a classically liberal valued person, but there's plenty of anarchists in our movement. We join them in the movement because they want to reduce the state too. Now, we'll get to a point where we will definitely disagree. On that day, the argument will be fierce in the hall, and there will be lots of division between our communities. But until then, we both recognize the state is too large, too abusive, and too intrusive. And we will join with anybody who wants to reduce the size of the state from where it is today to make it a smaller size tomorrow. That's the type of community building. That's the coalition we need to build. And anarchists, who philosophically have definitely been a part of the libertarian philosophy, are part of that. They should be joining alongside folks like myself in reducing the size and state of the state today. And then we'll get to the argument about whether a state exists or not. But we both agree that it's too big and too abusive right here, right now, and it's time for that to change.
Chase Oliver and Mike Termont, Libertarian presidential and vice presidential candidates, giving us more than generous with their time today. Thank you so much on the Jeff and Bill Show. I want to kind of have all of us pretend for a moment. We're going to jump ahead and let's assume that you guys have created the largest upset in American politics. You have captured the White House. The big question I hear a lot of things that really attract me about the Libertarian Party. But if you guys arrive in the White House, can you get anything done? Because you're going to have to work with a Congress and you have no allies. Why would the Democrats or Republicans want to see you succeed? How do you navigate that minefield potentially?
We have lots of tools at our disposal. First and the most powerful tool is the veto pen. If legislation comes up that adds to debt and deficit, increases the size of government, I will exercise the full authority to veto. We also have the power of the pardon. We can make example of the fact that there are far too many victimless crimes out there. We need to refocus our criminal justice system on crimes of actual harm, force, fraud, coercion, theft, and violence. That's the purpose of law enforcement. That's why I have a former law enforcement officer who also believes in police accountability on my ticket, because we understand that there is a need for that. But what there is a need for is the over-criminalized society we have. And of course, we'll work with any party that's actually wanting to get the job done, whether they be Democrat, Republican, Independent, Libertarian. We don't label people as they come in the door. We listen to their ideas. We respect them, their ability to speak. We'll disagree where we need to disagree, but we'll get to work getting to work. I also believe that if that condition happens and we win the White House, we're going to have some Libertarian Congress people and hopefully some Libertarian senators to really throw the balance out of whack and let people know that if you want to get things done, it's only going to be through the Libertarian prison in America.
Chase Oliver and Mike Termont joining us on the Jeff and Bill Show. You can visit their website, votechaseoliver.com or MikeTermont.com. He spells his last name MikeTermaat.com. You can learn more about these guys. Hey, thanks so much for being friends of the show. Thank you for taking the tough questions. We really appreciate your time and very best of luck on the race ahead.
Yeah, good luck.
Very much. Thanks, guys. Good to be with you.
Oh, so nice to have you today. Have a great day, guys.
That was very cool to have them taking the time to join us. They're out on a national presidential campaign, which means they're going to be very, very busy. Spend 30 minutes with us.
So kind.
I'm a social conservative. There's things we're not going to agree on. But this is the place where that conversation takes place.
And as weird as I am, there are some things that I really, really like about the Libertarian Party. There's some things I can't go along with. But would I be disappointed if those the two guys, they're going to be taking the oath next January? No, I wouldn't.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Hey, want to talk to you all about QC Kinetics. Look, all of us are getting older and those joint pains pop up. Man, your elbow, your knee, your back. Woo. If you're tired of living with that type of pain, robbing you the joy in your life, you're not alone. You got to check out my friends QC Kinetics Denver. They offer regenerative medical treatments and they're non-surgical, drug-free solutions. Look, as we age, we deal with pain in lots of places. That's common, from muscle strains to herniated discs. But if those are getting worse for you, and you don't want to quite make that jump to surgery, check out QC Kinetics. They're a safer option with no downtime and a free consultation. QC Kinetics often provides same-day treatment. Visit my friends at QC Kinetics and revolutionize your approach to lower back pain. Give them a call today, 303-900-8986. That's 303-900-8986, or visit painfreecolorado.com. That's painfreecolorado.com to schedule your free consultation today. Be sure to tell them Jeff sent you. Hey, we'd love to hear from the listeners. What do you think of those guys?
Would you vote for him?
He didn't answer the question on the trans stuff. Part of conservative Twitter pushed back and basically said that Chase is like a lighter, more libertarian version of Pete Buttigieg.
Yeah, and I could see, based on some of their answers, that he would go towards the idea of individual liberty, freedom. I'm going to let them be who they are. But given some of his comments about a private business, I believe he also would let private businesses make the determination on things like bathroom access and other things.
Yeah,
So,
I think that's where he is. Very socially libertarian, which we didn't get to this, but probably plays pretty well in Colorado. I think Colorado is one of the most, if not the most, socially libertarian, probably up there with Oregon, socially libertarian states, which you end up with this bizarre dynamics, right?
Yes, it's so weird.
We'll vote down any tax increase, right? Anyone that gets on there will vote down. But doctor-assisted suicide, sports gambling, commercialized pot, psychedelic mushrooms, unrestricted abortion.
Go for it.
Go for it.
Yes.
That's
we'll
the
give the
state we live in.
coupons.
And then God made me Mike Pence and Rick Santorum. I combined them and he put me in the state,
Yes,
which
he
is
did.
a really fun
It was a
experience
joke
for me.
Yeah, he's going to come up and you're going to see him in the pearly gates and go, ha, ha, ha. That was fun, wasn't it?
That was thanks for that regular headache. All right. I want to talk to you all about advanced hair restoration. You know that the Jeff and Bill show was rated the top talk radio show by Westward. Well, guess who was voted the top hair restoration company in Denver by Westward? Our friends at Advanced Hair Restoration. Hey, if you're losing your hair, you need a simple solution that works. You want the best modern technology with top-rated physicians, something that's guaranteed to work. Guys, you need Dr. Tanya Pauls and her team at Advanced Hair. They've completely redefined hair restoration, from the experience itself to their unmatched results. Receding hairline, bald spot, or thinning hair, address them all with Advanced Hair's simple one-day treatment in a calm, relaxed environment with the most experienced professionals. Advanced Hair has performed tens of thousands of these breakthrough treatments. And get this, your own natural hair begins to regrow the very next day. No one in Denver can offer anything like the advanced FUE found at Advanced Hair, and I highly recommend their team. It starts with your free consultation. Give them a call at 720-459-HAIR. If you qualify, you also get $250 off and 250 free hair grafts. Refine your hairline with the team that's redefined hair restoration. 720-459-HAIR or advancedhair.com. That's advancedhair.com. All right. There's a lot we'll get into about libertarians and Donald Trump and the direction of Colorado and whether or not they can win. We'll cover all that and more, but I want to hear from you. Phone lines are open. Text line is open, 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971. This radio show just introduced you to the presidential and vice presidential nominees for the Libertarian Party this year. They're kind enough to come on our program. What'd you think of them? Join the conversation. We'll get to that. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
At this hour in Berlin, I'm Trent Murray, and here are the top stories we're following. One person has died and several others have been injured after an explosion in Youngstown, Ohio. The blast occurred in an office building in the downtown area of Ohio's 11th largest city. Witnesses reported smelling gas before the explosion, but authorities say they are still investigating the cause. Local media report that construction workers were operating in the basement of the building at the time. Authorities also say that engineers are now assessing the structural integrity of the building. The jury in former President Donald Trump's so-called hush money case could start deliberations as soon as today. Tony Waterman has the details.
No one knows how long it will take the jury to reach its decision. It could be hours, it could be weeks, but that decision will have to be unanimous in order to convict or exonerate the former president. In closing arguments on Tuesday, Trump's attorney tried to discredit lead witness Michael Cohen, accusing him of being a liar. The prosecution said Cohen wasn't needed to prove the case. If convicted, the judge will decide Trump's punishment, although many experts say it's highly unlikely that the former president will spend any time behind bars.
And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm Trent Murray in Berlin on Salem News Channel.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. We just wrapped up an interview with Chase Oliver and Mike Termont. They're the presidential and vice presidential nominees for the Libertarian Party here in America. Chase reminded me a lot of Vivek in the way he speaks and communicates very quickly. That's what I had to learn when I went to Washington, D.C. Everyone talks very quickly. You get a point directly across.
Yeah.
We have no time to waste,
No time to
everybody.
waste. Yes, dude. These checks from the lobbyists are not going to cash themselves. We got stuff to do
That's
here.
exactly right.
Yeah.
I loved the fact he remembered you, Bill.
And you remember the phraseology,
And you remember the phraseology.
Oh, that's
Mike
fantastic.
Termott,
I appreciate
when
that.
he was running for the nomination, swung by Colorado. He was on our show, and he remembered debating you.
That's fantastic. I will take that as a compliment.
I bet he didn't remember until he got on, and then he went, this guy.
Oh, this dude. Oh, man. I would have said no if I knew this. That's what he was saying. He's like, I would not have joined Chase. I would have just stayed home.
And then the answer on anarchy I found interesting when they're basically admitted that anarchists are part of the libertarian movement.
Yeah.
But basically going, well, we ever get enough power, we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Exactly.
But until then,
Yeah.
yes, anarchists are part of the libertarian movement.
Yeah, it literally, the answer was kind of a secondary response of, well, we're not in power, and if we are in power, then we'll worry about it. But until then, you don't have to worry about any of the anarchy. Like, wait, and behind the scenes, we were joking because of them talking about small, limited government. We're like, anarchy, zero government. I mean, that's really small and incredibly limited. They're not doing anything because they don't exist. So yeah, that's a weird end of the path that you can get to.
Right after this, I'm racing back to the house because Rollout Shelves is installing today.
Today? Oh, it's a big day in your house.
Joyce
Oh,
and
my
Brent Oliver.
goodness, I cannot wait. You got to tell us all
My
about
wife and kids right now are removing everything from the shelves. So we live in a small ranch house and a small kitchen for 6 people. We're always climbing over each other. And through this job, I've gotten to know Joyce and Brent Oliver, and they're absolutely wonderful people. It's kind of like having your mom and brother over. They're so personable and friendly. We talked faith. We talked family. We talked our love for this country. Then we got to work measuring all the nooks and crannies so that your shelves with roll-out shelves pull out. And this is not just in the kitchen. They do this in bathrooms. They do this in laundry rooms. And this stuff is built from high quality, sturdy Baltic birch built right here in Colorado. They brought out samples, and this is a lot different than that cheap builder grade stuff that you may have that we had in our kitchen. So we are very excited to expand our kitchen, be able to see everything, pull out those shelves. My wife, I often joke, I married Monica from Friends. So everything's organized. She's got the little vacuum to clean the big vacuum type thing. She's very excited to have everything organized. So that'll be taking place today. I'll report back to you tomorrow.
Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait to hear about it because they are actually working with my mom, her new place that she moved into. And the nice part when they came over and sat down with her is her 2 pain points are the bathrooms. She has 2 bathrooms and it's under the sink. She's in her 80s. She doesn't want to have to get down and bend over to be able to find things and things
in
get
the
lost.
back.
Exactly.
Yep.
And they had some very senior friendly solutions to making sure that she can access everything underneath the bathroom that she needs, bathroom sink, but also make sure that it is stored away when it needs to be neatly and nicely. They also she has a really small kitchen countertop where there's not a lot of space underneath her sink. The sink drops down a little bit low, and then next to it is the garbage disposal. They came up with a really unique custom solution for getting a trash can underneath, and the trash can will then pull out from underneath the sink. Again, absolutely
That's
brilliant.
next level.
Yeah, it
that
really
is
cool.
next level.
Yeah,
Give
so
them
they're
a
making house
call.
easier.
303-475-9601. 303-475-9601 or visit rollemoutshelves.com. That's rollemoutshelves.com. Excited to see Brent today out at the Hunt House. All right. So Donald Trump went and spoke to the libertarians. Here's a guy that added $8 trillion of debt to our national debt, right? I'm a Trump fan. I'm going to be voting for him. But the idea that he did anything good on the spending side, he wasn't as bad as Joe Biden, but he's definitely not a libertarian. So keep that in mind. $8 trillion in debt. And he asked them for the nomination.
The Libertarian Party should nominate Trump for President of the United States. Whoa. That's nice. That's nice. Only if you want to win. Only if you want to win. Maybe you don't want to win. Maybe you don't want to win. Thank you, D-Roy. Thank you. No, only do that if you want to win. If you want to lose, don't do that. Keep getting your 3% every 4 years.
Ouch.
That was the best
Oh.
part when Trump went back.
Yeah.
I was trying to come up with what would Trump's motto be with libertarians?
Yeah.
Small government, big ego.
Yeah, exactly. It basically would be try not to suck. Basically, yes.
Donald
Follow
Trump,
me, you losers.
libertarian
Yes.
nominee for president. Small
Yes.
government, big ego.
Big ego.
Let's go to Raphael, line 1. Raphael, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning.
Morning. How are you? You said you were talked off air. You've had an experience with the roll out shelves, then we're going to talk politics.
No, no. This time it's not about politics. Hi, Bill, and hi, Jeff. Good morning. I'm just calling to let you guys know that I hired a lovely lady that you guys announced there and her son, the roll out shelf lady.
Yes.
Good.
And the interview went really well. She's going to do the job on the first, and I'll let you know how did that go, but I'm sure it's going to go really well.
Oh, that's
thank you so
fantastic.
much. I
I would
appreciate that,
love to
Raphael.
hear what was the conversation like? Did you enjoy having him over?
Oh, yeah, of course. Of course, we talk about you guys' show. I told you, that your show remind me to a show that I used to watch a long time ago on Fox News. It used to be called Hannity and Combs.
Yeah, that's it.
I don't know.
That's very accurate as to what the show is basically about.
I told you that we talk about you guys and about politics, of course, because I love politics. And but I mean, she's a very punctual person. He's a very professional person, her and her son. And I'll let you know how to go on the first.
Tell me, Raphael, what pain points are they fixing in your home? Where are they going to be putting the shelves? What was the solution they needed to provide for you?
Well, my wife bought these pots and pans from Le Creuset. Those things weigh like there is no tomorrow.
Yeah.
That is heavy, and it's always a pain on the back for me to put it back and forth in the drawer. So that's going to help a lot.
Oh, thank you,
all
Raphael.
over the kitchen.
Oh, I can't wait. Those La Cruzettes are so heavy. Thank you for the update. And please call us back and let us know exactly what it's like in the brand new kitchen. Now they don't have to hoist those heavy pans up over your head. And we'll talk politics too, my friend. Thank you so much.
Raphael, that is great. Great call. Thank you for letting us know how our advertisers and supporters are helping you out. That matters a lot to us. It matters to them even more. So appreciate that. Bill, did you see the story about the San Diego police officer?
No, what?
You think you've had a bad day?
Uh-oh. What happened?
You got a little freaky.
Ooh, now I'm
You
interested.
got a little freaky.
He's like, hey, can I search that?
He
Would
arrested.
you like me to serve and protect?
This dude
I'm awful.
had to resign because he was driving a female detainee, and
Okay.
she was a little loosey-goosey.
Oh.
She had a little bit too much to drink. She's commenting about how he looks and how nice, and she's like, I'm down. I'm down. You down? I'm down.
Uh-oh. Oh, no.
And then mysteriously, the body camera turns off for 20 minutes.
Oh, that happens.
He then paused, and the car didn't move for about 20 minutes. And then,
Yeah.
guess what happened?
Oh, I don't know.
His supervisor got a call because he had accidentally locked himself in the back of the police car with the girl.
No. he knows how the doors work, and he still went into the back seat.
He did.
Oh my
That's
God.
exactly right.
Okay. Can I say this on the air? Yes. Let's just say that how can I make this clean? Okay. He was thinking with the smaller cranium. Is that the better way to put it? Is that as close to the line as I can get to that one? Yeah. Oh my goodness. And again, God only gave us enough blood to run one of them. And sometimes the wrong one wins out. And that's a lesson.
And then there's body cam footage of the supervisor showing up and having to get him out. Now he was dressed. He was smart enough.
I'm sure by then.
But then he tried to get his way out of it. He made the argument that she was having a medical emergency.
And I had to.
And he had to
Send
go
her.
into the back to check on her because she had passed out.
Yes.
And while he was checking on her, he accidentally shut the door. And there's video, I'm not kidding you, Bill, of him demonstrating how the door accidentally shut.
God.
And he's trying to explain to all of it. And you're like, bro, there's just too much here. You turned
way too
off the
much.
badge cam. You just sat in one spot for 20 minutes. And then you called. And oh, look, she's perfectly fine
Oh,
now.
geez. Yeah. And you were stuck for 20 minutes. Really? That's a long time to sit there and go, well, we're going to do now. Yeah, I did. And what type of medical emergency that she was suffering that involved you sweating profusely.
Yeah, right. And she had this right after she said, wow, you're really good looking, and I'm down to get down,
Yes,
if you know what I mean. Oh, my goodness. That is a bad day. And then him trying to save his job. Oh,
Yeah, that's awful.
I just feel like your supervisor shows up and you're just like, here's the bad.
Yeah, exactly. Here, just talk to HR an hour later.
Find something else to do.
Yeah.
Hey, I want to talk to you all about QC Kinetics or actually about Ultra Botanica. We all want a kinder, gentler way to experience wellness and overcome pain. You've heard of curcumin products out there before, maybe even other ones on this show. But this one, they believe so much. UltraCur believes so much in their product, they will offer it to you for free. 3-day trial. Experience UltraCur for free. Go to any Denver Metro Natural Grocers and ask for the health coach or the vitamin manager for your free 3-day trial of UltraCur. It's a patented non-prescription natural capsule that works fast. Look, even if you've tried other curcumin products, you owe it to yourself to try UltraCur today. It is fueled by a patented technology to give you the true edge to support your peak wellness, energy, and active lifestyle. Get curious, Denver. Head to the Natural Grocers and grab your free 3-day UltraCur trial. No strings attached. If you're wondering about the research, get the lowdown at getultranow.com. That's getultranow.com. We'll continue with your calls and texts. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Absolutely fantastic Jeff and Bill show. We dove into the Trump circus outside the Manhattan courtroom yesterday. Robert De Niro, the Trump kids fighting back. My goodness, it was a circus in the 6 o'clock hour, 7 o'clock hour, drones in Denver. Thank you to Korey Nelson calling in, giving us some expertise on that. Are these drones going to have bullets soon? We're going to find, we discussed that and more. So if you missed that, go to 710KNUS to download the podcast there. 8 o'clock, Bob Lewis joined us. Talk about development in Elbert County is going to look more like Aurora in the future. We got the answer from him. And then the presidential and vice presidential nominees for the president Libertarian joined us. We're out of time. This is the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.